All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Market Close. I am sorry I am late. I just got back from New York. We recorded another episode of Basis Points today, but we are back. We are here and we are live. Someone said just like Israel's violating the ceasefire agreement, Amit is violating the 345 agreement. That is crazy. That is actually crazy. We got a lot to talk about. We're going to have Sam on the show today in a little bit, get his thoughts on what's going on in the broader equity markets overall. And there's a lot of different subplots to everything that's going on today. We're holding on to the green, but we're holding on to the green in a way that I think a lot of people aren't really comfortable with. And I think plenty of people here in the chat, and let me know in the comments, potentially feel that, yeah, it's a green day in certain parts. In other parts, it's not green. Broader S&P basically where it was when I left during the market open, around 675. But it doesn't necessarily feel like the ability for it to hold on to this momentum is as evident. And there are a bunch of headlines, some of them that are not really the best that we've had to deal with over the past couple hours, that essentially make you reconsider if this ceasefire agreement is actually going to be able to meaningfully hold up. And if it doesn't hold up, then it begs the question, what's going to happen to the equity market? So we're going to get into those headlines because that kind of determines the majority of what's going on today. Palantir, I do not know what's going on today with Palantir. I have one guess, and it's yes, there is a little bit of a software sell-off, and that is evident by Microsoft, which is up 30 cents on the day. Microsoft's at 387, now it's at 372. So obviously Microsoft got sold off pretty hard. IGV in general getting sold off. IGV going red on the day with software, Salesforce, Adobe, ServiceNow. So Palantir being part of the software index, that could have been one of the reasons why it's down. I honestly can't even fully say that, well, the war is over, so Palantir got this defense premium, and now Palantir is not getting that defense premium, even though that's very logical to say, right? Like, war happens, Palantir gets a defense premium, war goes away, at least for 2 weeks, Palantir loses the defense premium. But then why is Lockheed Martin up on the day? Now it's red, but it's red by 50 cents. Raytheon is still up 1% on the day. I mean, all the defense contractors should technically be down if Palantir is losing a defense premium. So I don't think it's the defense narrative. I don't think it's the software narrative. Honestly, there might be a big insider sell today, and we'll find out in the next hour and a half what happened with the insider selling. It might be an institution that's taking some profits, might be an insider, but 6% down on a massive high beta growth day is very weird. I did see the Burry tweet. I mean, if Burry really took this thing down 6%, then I guess Burry's tweet was just like, Anthropic is eating Palantir's lunch. And he was like, Anthropic's doing 30 billion of revenue. Palantir is not going to have any more money to win in the enterprise. I'm like, you can make that argument about a lot of software companies, but Palantir is the one that's actually growing margins and top line. In fact, Palantir, you can't really compare it to Anthropic. Palantir utilizes Anthropic. They don't compete with Anthropic. They're not making a foundation model. So I think his criticism, once again, is missing the point of Palantir. And obviously he is short, so he definitely wants the stock to go down. But I really don't think a Michael Burry tweet sent the stock down 6%. I think there's something more structural here, maybe with insider selling. And I guess we'll find out over the coming hours in terms of how this is playing out. Oracle, that's flat on the day, still slightly green. S&P again, 2.4%, 674. We did get up to 677 on the S&P. So we really have not lost 670 throughout the day, which is a very important technical level. And it's nice that we've at least held on to that. Amazon up 3% on the day. Elf's up 1%. MicroStrategy's up 3%. Morgan Stanley's up. Google's up. Meta hit 630 at one point because they officially put out a new model for the first time in about 2 years. Street got excited about that. Unfortunately, they've not been able to hold on to that momentum. They're only at 613, but given the stock was at 520 when they were at 630, it's almost like the market didn't even care about the child exploitation lawsuits, which sent the stock down to $520. But as of today, you got the Meta model right here. Muse Spark is the name of it. The first in the Muse family of models developed by Mello Superintelligence Labs. Muse Spark is a natively multimodal reasoning model with support for tool use, visual chain of thought, and multi-agent orchestration. I have not tested the model. I don't know what the model looks like. I've seen a couple reviews on it in the past couple hours, and people are saying it's phenomenal. And I think that's why the market has been obviously very excited about it, and that's why Meta is getting low. It is kind of crazy though, right? Like that child exploitation thing sent this thing almost below 400, and now it was pushing 630 today. I will say, however, I don't think if we didn't get a ceasefire that Meta would be able to get this level of movement. I mean, like you needed the initial ceasefire to get rid of a bit of a macro overhang for any AI news to even start to get priced in to some of these companies. And with Meta, it's nice to see that it's getting priced in, at least to an extent. But still up 6% on the day. It was up almost 15 or up 12% earlier in the day. Oscar, that's up 11% on that insider buy. Shopify, that's up 2.9%. A lot of these names, even a Robinhood, it was at 77, now it's at 71. It's up 3%, which is nice. But if you had covered calls anywhere near from 70 to 75, I mean, you're probably going to be doing okay. A lot of covered calls have been saved today as the market, Pouncer right there, 140.75, has not really had a face ripper outside of on the index. So what's happening with the Strait of Hormuz? This is the Iranian parliament speaker who put out this statement about 20 minutes ago. And this is also why I think certain subsectors of the market ended up getting hit. Let me pull it up right here. Here it is. So he said, the deep historical distrust we hold in the United States stems from a repeated violations of all forms of commitments, a pattern that has regrettably been repeated once again. As the president of the United States has clearly stated in his truth, the Islamic Republicans of Iran's 10-point proposal is a workable basis on which to negotiate and the main framework for these talks. However, 3 clauses of this proposal have been violated so far. 1, non-compliance with the first clause of the 10-point proposal regarding the ceasefire in Lebanon, a commitment that Prime Minister Sharif of Pakistan has also explicitly referred to and declared as an immediate ceasefire everywhere, including Lebanon. Trump disagreed with that this morning when he was talking to PBS. 2, the entry of an intruding drone into Iranian airspace, which was destroyed in the city of Fars in clear violation of the clause prohibiting any further violation of Iranian airspace. And 3, denial of Iran's right to enrichment, which was included in the 6th clause of the framework. So you've got 3 things that the Iranian parliament is accusing the United States of violating in regards to the ceasefire. And as a result of that, you have multiple reports saying that the Strait of Hormuz is now closed. Now, it has not fully been confirmed yet if the Strait of Hormuz is closed or not. But as per the Wall Street Journal, Iran told mediators it will be limiting the number of ships crossing the Strait of Hormuz to around 12 per day, which is a lot less than the 150 that we needed. This is a sharp reversal from last night's statements. Today, only 4 ships have passed through the Strait of Hormuz, the fewest of any day in April so far. Iran is also potentially charging fees on the ships that are going through. Now, having said that, along with if you're watching the market open, there were many, many ugly headlines about attacks going back and forth, Israel attacking Lebanon. By the way, those attacks, I've seen some coverage on them. Not good. You got 250 people injured. You got people in Lebanon saying, what the hell's going on? Like, we thought this was supposed to chill out for a couple of weeks. You got Israel saying Lebanon was never part of the ceasefire. So you have a lot of infighting from that perspective. Then you have Iran coming out saying, you guys violated the agreement. We don't think we can hold up our end of the bargain. But the markets aren't really upset about it. Like, you would think all of that should cause some type of a reversal or some type of like, okay, we're going back down to at least 670, 665. Crude should be spiking back above 100s. Oil's at 96. It's not amazing, but it was at 117 yesterday. So in the midst of all those bad headlines, now maybe, attach a yet to it, right? Yeah, maybe yet, and this is going to collapse eventually. But given how headline-driven the market has been on every millisecond of reporting going back and forth, I mean, we have gotten at least, and I'm saying at least, it's probably more than this, 8 headlines this morning that were counterproductive to the ceasefire being in place, that showed more Iranian drones being attacked in Qatar, Saudi Arabia, etc. Why is the market not reacting to it? And maybe it's all manipulation, maybe it's all fake, but it is very weird that the market is not going down and not pricing in that this war theoretically could be escalating.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt here at the White House just within the past hour or so, and she confirmed that the United States is sending a delegation under J.D. Vance to go to Pakistan and negotiate face-to-face with the Iranians. Also included in that delegation, Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff, who've been in part of the negotiations all the way along. J.D. Vance being there in person kind of elevates the stature of those negotiations. We'll see what they're able to come up with. But one of the key questions in all of this, Scott, is this issue of whether the Iranians post-war will be able to charge, in effect, tolls for ships going through the Strait of Hormuz. I asked Caroline Leavitt that in the press briefing, whether that was an outcome that would be acceptable to the United States or whether that would be a red line for the president. And here's what she said.
I think the president was very clear and simplistic in his language last night in his Truth Social post, where he said that this ceasefire is subject to the free, safe, and immediate reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. That's very plain language, and it should be taken at face value. Carrie, go ahead. Without limitation, including tolls, yes.
And then this is what Caroline Leavitt said today about the 10-point proposal from Iran.
The Iranians originally put forward a 10-point plan that was fundamentally unserious, unacceptable, and completely discarded. It was literally thrown in the garbage by President Trump and his negotiating team. Many outlets in this room have falsely reported on that plan as being acceptable to the United States, and that is false. With the president's deadline fast approaching and the United States military completely decimating Iran with each passing hour, the regime acknowledged reality to the negotiating team. They put forward a more reasonable and entirely different and condensed plan to the president and his team. President Trump and the team determined the new modified plan was a workable basis on which to negotiate and to align it with our own 15-point proposal. The president's red lines, namely the end of Iranian enrichment in Iran, have not changed. And the idea that President Trump would ever accept an Iranian wish list as a deal is completely absurd. The president will only make a deal that serves in the best interests of the United States of America. And he as a negotiating team will focus on this effort over the next 2 weeks.
So you got the White House saying we have not accepted the 10-point proposal. You got the White House saying Lebanon was not part of the ceasefire. And you've got the White House saying that J.D. Vance is going to be the top negotiator who's going to be heading to Pakistan over the next couple of days and starting the negotiation process. We have 45 seconds until the market closes. And then pile that on top of all of the ugly headlines we had this morning around attacks and violations of the ceasefire agreement. And somehow, some way, which is why I asked the poll in the chat if people think this is a bull trap, the S&P is going to be up 2.5% on the day. The S&P is going to add almost $2 trillion of market cap, even with all these headlines that are clearly showing that either the ceasefire is not working or that escalation is continuing, which means I guess the market, as an aggregated source of information, does not believe that all of the excursions, I guess, that have happened over the past 12 hours after the ceasefire are legit, and that there is a chance that the ceasefire ends up lasting much longer than expected. Wednesday, April 8th, 4 p.m., the day after the ceasefire, stock market is now closed. All right, we are done for the day. 676 on the S&P. I mean, that's a hell of a green day, guys. We were at 630 last Monday. We were at 650 yesterday. This is a big, big move. And with all the headlines that we've been keeping track of all day, it is very surprising that we held on to this move. Maybe it's fake, maybe it's not, and we'll try to dissect it over the next hour. We got a bunch of new updates from J.D. Vance. He just did a press conference, so we'll take a look at some of the stuff he said. But, I mean, when you put all this stuff together, I think we all want to be happy and excited for it. It's just kind of weird because I think a lot of people are wondering why exactly did we stick? And we obviously didn't stick in different individual stocks. Palantir down about 6% on the day. We'll do a little bit more investigating to see what happened with Palantir and how this one got hit. Tesla as well, 343. This thing was at 370 almost in the pre-market. This one got hit pretty bad, 343, but it is still up from those 338 lows of yesterday. Still down 1% on the day. And Microsoft basically flat on the day. ARM up 3.5%. You had Rich Tech Robotics had a new update today. That was up 8%. Bitcoin was at 72, now 71.4. Apple, not too bad, up 2% after falling yesterday 4% for the foldable phone delay news. Netflix went green. Nvidia, not a bad day. 2.23. It was at 185, ended at 182. Can't be too upset about this. This thing was at 160 last week. So it's nice to see that get a little bit more momentum. Grab right there was up 2.54%. Palo Alto was up 2.3. Reddit was up 2.7. Again, Reddit was pushing 155, ended at 145. So it was a green day. It just wasn't a massive green day, even though the S&P held on to a pretty massive pump. Robinhood 71.83, up 3%. Ondas actually red on the day. A lot of different drone stocks didn't make it today. South Korea, that was up 10%. EWI ServiceNow was down 3%. Software did get sold off. There was a Claude headline that I will cover in a second because that probably was the reason for the IGV sell-off. I don't know if that was the exact reason for the Palantir sell-off, but definitely affected Salesforce. Wow, Salesforce fell 4%. I didn't even see that. Yeah, that's definitely the Claude announcement, which we'll talk about. Adobe down about 0.35% of the day. Morgan Stanley, the banks had a good day, and then Google was up 3.8% on the day. Let me pull up the heat map. We were green everywhere except energy. Everywhere except energy. As you can see right there, energy was flat. Utilities were okay. Tesla was down. Software and energy, I should say, were the ones that were hit the most. Everything else, massive day. John Deere, 5%. Caterpillar, 6%. GE Vernova, 6%. Boeing, 4%. JP Morgan, Visa, Berkshire Hathaway, Walmart, Coca-Cola. I mean, you had a lot of names, even if they were not high beta tech stocks, that did all right. Oh, we do have APLD earnings today. Let me cover that before the Applied Digital Bulls chop my head off. All right, APLD. We'll see what earnings they put up. APLD up 1.4% after hours. That was up 10% during the day. Nebius also great day. Iran, I think, had a good day until it faded. Iran, well, still 3%. It was at 39, fell to 36. Nebius, I think, got to 126, ended at 125. So Nebius still held up relatively strong throughout the entire day, which was good for them. APLD up 2%. What do we got? And then we'll talk about all the other headlines after we get through APLD. Also, put in the chat, what did you do today? I did a decent chunk of buying early in the morning with my retirement account, but in the actual brokerage, didn't do anything too much. Where are these earnings? APLD. Street's expecting negative 11 cents and revenue of 78 million. Negative 11 cents and revenue of 78 million. Stock right there, basically flat after hours. Someone said I worked. It's a good answer. It's a good answer. And let me know if you own APLD. By the way, you guys saw Intel? Goodness, man. 11%. I don't even know what the update was on Intel today. I know they had the SpaceX news 2 days ago, but goodness, dude. 11 freaking percent on Intel. It's at $60. $300 billion market cap. Intel was $18 last year. I mean, just an incredible move. APLD, I still do not have their earnings. Intel does not have earnings today either. For those that are saying Intel earnings, that is not today. I mean, I think it's not today. There's no way that we have Intel earnings today. Yeah, there's no Intel earnings. So that's like next month. Oh, there's the real move. Okay, there it is, 7% APLD. I should get the numbers in a second. But there you go. You're seeing a much bigger move. Laura said she bought Zeta. Some people saying they bought Meta, bought SOXL. A couple people saying they bought Intel at 50. A few people say Palantir. Some people say VG. Seems like a decent amount of people either stayed on the sidelines or bought a little. And then I'm seeing a lot of people saying they sold covered calls on the stuff they bought. So they're hedging the long exposure that they got into today, which I think is not a crazy thing to do given we don't know what's happening with these negotiations. All right, APLD. It looks like they beat revenue pretty nicely. The Dow, by the way, was up 1,300 points. Revenue. Street wanted 78 million. They came at 126 million. That is a 61% beat. Revenue is up 140% year over year. However, on EPS, the Street wanted them to lose 11 cents a share. They ended up losing 36 cents a share. That is a 227% miss. The Street doesn't seem to care too much about that. EPS is down 125% year over year. Revenue is up 140% year over year. Those are your numbers. Stock is up about 3%. Stock is up about 3%. I mean, there's no world in which where we're seeing this AI growth, where APLD, Nebius, Iran, Cipher, et cetera, don't put up really good earnings. The question is, will the Street give them a multiple given the internal dynamics of the business and the dilution and lack of profitability, all that stuff? But they're definitely going to put up good numbers. And the revenue beat by 61% is a pretty decent number. Now, the EPS miss is likely because they overinvested in CapEx to be able to build out data center capacity, which I don't think they're going to be punished for. And they haven't been punished for that for the past year. So maybe the EPS miss is not that big of a deal. The stock was up 10% during the day. It's up 3% after hours. Not a big after hours move, but realistically during the day, you did have a massive move on APLD. Got a couple Wall Street Journal headlines. Trump administration may punish some NATO countries for lack of support on Iran. Proposal involves moving U.S. troops from countries deemed unhelpful on Iran. Troops would move to countries more supportive of a U.S. campaign against Iran. Okay, so Wall Street Journal reporting that Trump potentially will take away certain sources, aka troops from different NATO countries that he has deemed unhelpful on Iran. I mean, this is not really that big of a headline because he's been saying this for the past couple of weeks. I think Spain is on the top of that list if he was going to pick a country. But I guess we'll see what Trump says later this week. Also, Constellation Brands, they had earnings. These guys own a lot of alcohol brands, if I'm not wrong. I think Modelo is one of their main brands. What is the ticker on Constellation? I should know this. What is the ticker on this? This is STZ. Are we down? We are down 2%. Revenue, they beat by 2%, 1.92 versus 1.88 billion. Revenue is down 11% year over year. I guess people stopped drinking. And then EPS is down 30% year over year. They did beat by 11%, 190 versus 171 for Constellation Energy. Or sorry, not Constellation Energy, Constellation Brands. And that is what you've got there. All right, so those were the two earnings today. APLD, they crushed it on revenue. Didn't crush it on EPS, but I don't think the market's going to care that much about that. And then Constellation Brands, although revenue and EPS is down year over year, they did beat expectations on the top and the bottom. APLD up 4.3%. Up 4.3% after hours. I mean, look, Nebius, Iran, all these guys should be putting up monster numbers. When you see the type of growth Anthropic's putting out, that's going to be subcontracted from the hyperscalers to the neoclouds. Just their ability to get some level of profitable growth is what I think the street is going to care about long term. So that's what we got. APLD up 4%, and then Constellation Brands down about 2%. Those are the earnings after the bell. Okay, cool. Let's get into all the other headlines. We'll have Sam join in about 20 minutes. Sam, good friend of the channel. For those that don't know him, you'll get to hear from him today. But he's been tracking the Iran war very closely over the past couple of weeks, and I will be very curious to hear kind of how he's mainly thinking about it. Again, the major headline of the day, which did not affect the S&P, and then we'll talk about all the other different sub-headlines. I know a lot of people asking about Palantir. I really don't have the best answer for you. I don't know. My gut tells me it was a big insider sell because I don't think it's just the software sell-off. I don't think it's like the defense premium going away, especially because defense contractors were up today. I think there had to be some institution that just took some profits today. Otherwise, it's hard to explain exactly what's going on. So again, this was the Iranian parliament speaker came out today, accused the United States and Israel of violating 3 of the 10 points that they agreed to. Trump came out this morning and said, look, Lebanon was never part of the agreement. I wonder if he still feels that way. Iran supposedly has cut off the Strait of Hormuz, which is not the best thing for oil prices, but oil didn't spike. The S&P didn't go down. VIX stayed relatively stable. I mean, it is weird that the price action did not reflect the headlines, given how much they reflect the headlines. But that's what we got going on in the context of the Iran war with the United States. Trump options stop short of withdrawing from NATO. Yeah, again, I said this a couple weeks ago, and I'm going to stand by this opinion, and maybe I'm wrong, but I do not think Trump is getting out of NATO. I just think there's no way in hell Trump actually pull. He'll try to do symbolic stuff and be like, oh, we're going to move our bases from here to... He's not going to leave NATO because the level of excitement that Putin would have for the fact that the United States is not surprised. I mean, there's just like, I don't think that's going to happen. So... I mean, time will tell how he kind of navigates the NATO situation, but I really doubt he's going to completely isolate himself from NATO. All right, let's get into the other headlines. And then we'll keep going from there. First of all, real quick, let's talk Palantir because I see a lot of people asking questions about it. I do not think the Burry tweet is what caused I will show you guys the Burry tweet if it's that concerning for a lot of people. I don't think Burry moves markets to the tune of $15 billion that's sold off from Palantir's market cap today. I mean, maybe it's possible. The guy is definitely influential, but you know, Palantir, it's one of those names that is highly correlated to a variety of different things going on. So Burry tweeting Anthropic is eating Palantir's lunch. Maybe that was enough to influence a lot of people to sell off Palantir. Maybe. I don't think so. I think he's making an inaccurate comparison right here. I don't think it makes a lot of sense. I don't think he understands exactly Palantir's business. I don't think he understands why Palantir works with Anthropic. I don't think he understands the orchestration of models. If you read his original 10,000 word essay, he said Palantir is not an AI company because they don't develop an LLM. I mean, if that's the barrier to become an AI company, then NVIDIA's. NVIDIA really makes hardware. They don't really, I know NVIDIA has their open source models now, but at that point, Anthropic and OpenAI and Gemini, Google are the only AI companies. That's obviously not the core definition of an AI company, and that fundamentally misunderstands what Palantir is doing with AI. So, he can have his bear thesis on the valuation. That's fine. I don't think this tweet was the reason for the sell-off, but I can't really explain the sell-off because I don't think it was software. I don't think it was defense contractors getting hit because defense contractors didn't get hit today. I think there was a really big institution or an insider that sold today, and we'll probably find out in 40 minutes when we get the SEC forms after the close, and we'll try to get some more information, but I am just as confused as everyone else. Not sure why that one got hit. I will remind everyone, though, yes, it is a very valid point. Just like Tesla, Palantir has a multiple. It's a very excessive multiple. There is no denying it. So, people are asking, why is Tesla down randomly? Well, Tesla trades at 300 times earnings. Why is Palantir down randomly? Palantir trades at 230 times earnings. So, there is a world in which these guys don't need a reason to go down, even though I know everyone wants a reason. They go down. I mean, this stuff happens, especially on massive green days when people take profits. So, hopefully we'll get some more answers later. But as of now, that is the extent of what we understand with Palantir. There was a great NHS headline this morning as well. That was tweeted about Palantir making real progress in the NHS. I mean, we've known this for a while. I don't think that moved the stock up or down, but it's just another thing to keep in mind when understanding or trying to understand the broader Palantir thesis. Wall Street Journal, U.S. may close at least one military base, possibly in Spain or Germany. Okay, so Spain was obvious, given they restricted their airspace for U.S. fighter jets during the war. Germany, I'm not sure what exactly Trump is mad about with Germany. I thought MERS was on his side, but Spain seemed kind of obvious that he was going to go after that. Let's listen to Vance, because we have a bunch of clips from him, and let's try to get a better understanding of kind of how Vance is thinking of this. Now, Vance is going to be the chief negotiator. So Vance is getting ready to get on a flight, or he's probably on the flight right now, to go to Pakistan and start beginning negotiations. It's interesting that they're not sending Rubio, they're not sending Kushner, they're not sending Witkoff, they're sending Vance. So I guess Trump has enough faith that Vance is going to be his guy to get this deal done. And I guess we're going to see if that's possible. Here's a couple clips of what he said about 20 minutes ago.
Of when that strait is going to be open?
Well, we've already seen an increase in traffic today. Hopefully we'll see an increase in traffic tomorrow. We actually think that we are seeing signs that the straits is starting to reopen. I think you guys have probably seen oil prices have come down. So I think the oil markets, the gas markets are seeing the same thing. But the president's very, very clear. The deal is a ceasefire, a negotiation. That's what we give. And what they give is that straits are going to be reopened. If we don't see that happening, the president is not going to abide by our terms if the Iranians are not abiding by their terms.
Okay, this next clip about the Lebanon attacks today.
First of all, I actually think, and there's a lot of bad faith negotiation and a lot of bad faith, propaganda going on. I think this comes from a legitimate misunderstanding. I think the Iranians thought that the ceasefire included Lebanon, and it just didn't. We never made that promise. We never indicated that was going to be the case. What we said is that the ceasefire would be focused on Iran, and the ceasefire would be focused on America's allies, both Israel and the Gulf Arab states. First of all, I actually...
when you say it's a genuine misunderstanding, that's a hell of a misunderstanding, dude. I mean... One side is sending bombs because of this misunderstanding. The other side is ready to close the Strait of Hormuz. By the way, I was wrong. Kushner and Witkoff are going. So it's not just J.D. Vance. Kushner and Witkoff are indeed going. I don't know how much they like Kushner and Witkoff based on the previous negotiations, but it looks like all three will be there.
I can announce that the president is dispatching his negotiating team, led by the Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance, Special Envoy Witkoff, and Mr. Kushner to Islamabad for talks this weekend. The first round of those talks will take place on Saturday morning local time, and we look forward to those in-person meetings.
It doesn't make an ounce of sense. What's happening on the ground in Iran is that you have clearly the position of the government, which is to negotiate with the United States of America. You have the position of the President of the United States, which is to send the negotiators to Pakistan and engage in this good faith negotiation. And then, yes, you have some crazy people at the fringes of the Iranian system who are leaking anonymously, either for propaganda purposes or because they're embarrassed or because they don't like what happened. And the final point, when I say they don't like what happened, what we know is that the United States accomplished its military objectives. What we know is the United States could have imposed significant additional military and economic costs on Iran and still has the capacity to do so. But we thankfully, at this point, I think, have a ceasefire, thanks to the leadership of the President of the United States. We have the Iranians promising to open the Straits of Hormuz, and we have a negotiation that's supposed to start this weekend. That's the truth. I think it's a good first step. We're going to see if we can make more progress here in the days to come.
Okay, and then this is Vance criticizing the media about the coverage of everything in Iran.
Here's what's interesting about all this is that I've seen various organs, the New York Times, CNN, others, pick up and run the original 10-point proposal based on little more than a random Yahoo in Iran submitting it to public access television in the country of Iran, and then them saying that somehow represents the negotiating position of the government. It's the equivalent of somebody in, let's say, a Democratic councilman in Boise, Idaho, saying something crazy, the local public access TV picking up that crazy statement, and then the New York Times running that as the position of the President of the United States. It doesn't make an ounce of sense. Here's what's interesting about all this is that—
Okay, last clip. This is Vance on what's been going on with the Israelis.
About Lebanon.
Go ahead, yeah.
Because there seems to be a disagreement about whether Lebanon was included in this proposal. And the Speaker of the Parliament, who you're going to sit across from the table from in Islamabad, has just said that he thinks negotiations would be unreasonable while that war is ongoing. So would you ask Israel to hold off strikes to allow some space for these talks?
Well, first of all, I know there's been some conversations between the Israelis and the leadership of our country today. I haven't been involved in that because I've been busy doing stuff in Hungary. I'm actually supposed to get an update when I get on the plane.
About Lebanon.
Go ahead.
All right, so Vance obviously is not sure what's going on with these conversations between Israel and Lebanon. I mean, look, the kind of takeaway from everything that he's saying right there, and again, he will be sitting across from the Speaker of the Parliament in Iran, or from Iran in Pakistan in the next couple of days and having these difficult conversations. I imagine the first thing the Speaker is going to say, dude, we agreed to a ceasefire, and then Israel started bombing Lebanon. And he's going to be like, well, Lebanon was never part of the agreement. And I think the guy would be like, what are you talking about? It's like, and even if they weren't part of the agreement, do you really think it's the most productive thing after we both showed a sign of good faith for your ally to just start bombing other allies that we have in the Middle East? And like, it's going to be a very difficult conversation. I imagine they're going to have to find some point of agreement. But the larger point here is that if the bombings continue and if there is not some level of an agreement on, what is negotiated in terms of a real ceasefire, then the Strait of Hormuz will continue to be closed. About 4 ships, apparently, as per the Wall Street Journal, have been reportedly passing through the Strait today, which is nothing, right? We usually have about 120 every day. Now, again, it's probably going to take a couple of days for the Strait of Hormuz to really open. It's, Carolyn Levitt also said today that ceasefires don't happen immediately. When Israel and Iran did their 12-day during the 12-day war, when they had a ceasefire, they also had a couple of missiles fly back and forth because it takes a couple of days. So, I mean, there maybe is some benefit of the doubt that the market's giving that says, look, we believe in this ceasefire, even if it's not going to be perfect on day one. But if it's not good tomorrow, and then on Friday, and then next week, and there's all these different mishaps happening, and then ultimately both sides don't respect the point of the ceasefire in the first place, I wonder how much the market's really going to believe in it. And if the market's actually going to, validate with higher equity prices and lower oil prices the extent of this ceasefire. Where is Rubio? Someone said Rubio is getting ready to take over Cuba. I don't know if that's happening. It would be not surprising if they were implanting him in Cuba. I mean, Trump did say Cuba's next, which would create a whole nother issue for the equity markets to try to navigate. But yeah, it's going to be Vance, Kushner, and Witkoff that end up going to Pakistan. So here's the question for everybody. Well, let me check the poll. But I mean, the simple question is, do you think this is a real bull trap or not? Do you think there's some levels of artificial excitement that are now inundated in these prices that have nothing to necessarily do with reality? Or do you think the market is smart to be able to say, you know what, at the end of the day, the ceasefire will persist, and we think both sides want to come to an agreement. 67% of you say yes, it is a bull trap. 34% say no. So call it 70-30 or 65-35 in the context of people that believe in this or not. I cannot blame people that are a bit more skeptical here. And quite frankly, I can't blame people that want to see a little bit more price action stabilization in order to feel really confident. Again, the S&P holding on to a 2.5% move. Like you just really, I didn't think by the time I would get back for the close that we would have held on to that much of a move, just given the onslaught of headlines that only got worse by the end of the day. And we did, which either is fake or it's telling something about where the market is going. Yes, the strait is actually not open. That is also correct. It's open to an extent, but it's not open to the point where 120 ships are entering through. And Iran is, and their foreign ministry has said it is officially closed, which has not really been confirmed. But I guess if you trust the Iranians, it is closed. So like tomorrow, they're going to be, a lot of people are going to be tracking the traffic and saying, hey, how much is actually coming through versus how much are we assuming is coming through? Because right now, I think all of this is based on assumptions. And until we know, not sure the markets are going to be able to easily think that that everything is okay. 27.79 on Applied Digital, 28.34 as it is green after hours. Palantir still down about 6% on the day. A lot of these names, Rocket Lab is not able to hold on to a big move. Still 4% is nice, but that thing was pushing 74. Nvidia right there, 2.23% on the day. Netflix basically flat, and then you had Apple at 258 as that was up only 2%. Yeah, per the IRGC, Strait of Hormuz to around 12 per day, which is not enough, right? That is not a complete opening of the Strait of Hormuz. What also makes this very confusing is we saw the Trump Truth Social post this morning, and I will pull it up again. Trump said that we are now, quote, we are and will be talking tariffs and sanctions relief with Iran. I mean, that has to be something that's relatively bullish, right? Where the president of the United States is saying we are ready after 15 years to help relieve some sanctions on Iran. I mean, the market would have to be like, okay, so Iran's going to give you something, you're going to give something up, and then this is going to be over with. But then you get all these onslaught of headlines showing the opposite. It is very confusing for how markets need to react to that. But nonetheless, markets went up and they held their gain. And I think they're giving Trump the benefit of the doubt today. I really do. Either it's all algorithmic mumbo jumbo and this is all fake, or buyers are saying, you know what, let's give it a couple days, but we do think it's the time to at least begin the process of buying because we're probably not going to go back to a war. And if we're not, then this should be much better than not. Netanyahu, we got a quote from him. This isn't the war's end. This was a station en route to achieving aims. All highly enriched uranium will be removed from Iran as Israel is poised to resume the war whenever necessary. So again, a lot of these headlines today also had to do with Israel. And yeah, the White House today tweeted, "Don't be a panikin," which, once again, their argument is like, look, everything's going to be okay. We're going to be all right. You shouldn't be worried. Well, it's hard not to panic when you've got one side of the party that is just gung-ho on like making sure the war continues, right? And so the markets don't care. That's the surprise. The markets, it's almost like the markets are discounting Israel, and they're like, we don't care what Israel does because we know that eventually this thing is going to come to an end. You've got a lot of people from the geopolitical space, from the few people that I listened to today, saying they have zero faith that this war is coming to an end. I mean, I have some faith that this war is coming to an end. Maybe I'm dead wrong, but I kind of think both sides want to get a deal. And then you have a lot of other people saying this is absolutely BS. There's not going to be any deal. This 2 weeks is going to turn into 2 days. And markets are headed right back down. Oil's headed right back up. And I think that fear is warranted. But I also think the markets have not priced in that fear, because we're not seeing any level of, meaningful downside, at least across the S&P. Intel, again, that one was up nicely, around 11% on the day. Who sold today? Put in the chat if you sold anything today. I bought 10 stocks or 11 stocks in my retirement account. Bought Grab, Broadcom, Google, Robinhood, Meta, Nvidia, Oracle, Palantir, Rocket Lab, Tesla, and AMD. So I did unload a decent chunk into them, and we'll see if those were good buys or bad buys. But I'm more on the optimistic side that in the next 2 weeks we're going to have somewhat of a deal. Trump's going to try to claim that he saved the world by creating this deal, and markets will price that in. I also think a 17% drop in oil is not a joke. And the fact that that sustained itself throughout the day in the midst of these headlines, that gives me a little bit more confidence that March 30th was the bottom. Now, granted, we could all be wrong, and it's hard to obviously call the bottom or call the top, but as a result of that, I don't think it's crazy. However, I completely understand people selling, my mom sold her Rocket Lab today. She made a little bit of money on that. People selling calls. I don't think that's crazy at all to try to hedge some of the exposure. Almost sold some of my semis, but I didn't. Long term, those Anthropic numbers make it really hard for me to think of selling semis. Someone said I sold my Nebius at stress. Nebius usually kind of tops out around this range, so it would need to break over 130, I think, for bulls to remain in charge. But I mean, look, the stock was at 90, now it's at 125. So if you're trading this name, it's giving you the volatility to give you that momentum. Laura said she bought Zeta. Zeta had a nice little run today. Did give up a decent chunk of those gains. Wow, why are a bunch of you saying you sold Nebius? It's like 4 people here saying I sold Nebius. Did some report come out or something? That's interesting. Trimmed a little, sold some Rocket Lab, sold in the morning, sold Micron. Micron is what? Micron had an 8% move today. Micron 406.73, up from 318, which is not too bad. Took some profits on energy. I don't hate that. I mean, obviously, energy took a big beating today, but it's still up 30% for the year. So if you think the war is over, then taking over some profits here is not the worst thing in the world either. I sold Nebius too. Oh, did Tanner say something to get all you guys to? I would imagine Tanner did not sell his Nebius today. Goodness, that's actually surprising to me. Nebius is developing a very strong cult. If you just search Nebius on X, I mean, people love this stock. It's quite incredible how many people are attached to this name. So I am surprised that I'm seeing more people kind of take some profits right here. GLW Corning, how about this one on the day? 165. Wow. Shout out to Jason. This is one that he really likes. 11%. I mean, see, when you see these like war headlines, Israel violates ceasefire, all this stuff, and then Corning's up 11%. It's like and then maybe it's on the meta stuff, maybe it's on the Anthropic, but it's just in general that broader AI semi ecosystem. Corning's one of the names that has been benefiting massively from that. Also, before we get Sam on, let me just show you guys this real quick. This is why the software name sold off today. Claude introduced managed agents, everything you need to build and deploy agents at scale. It pairs an agent harness turned for performance with production infrastructure, so you can go from prototype to launch in days. So essentially a new orchestration platform to manage multiple agents running at once. I guess the market was like, okay, Salesforce is dead. And so is Adobe and ServiceNow. And that's why you had Claude kind of create another one of those sell-offs. Sam, what's up, man?
What's up, Chief? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Can you hear me fine?
I can hear you guys. Sam is not in his usual studio, so...
I'm not. I am in Egypt right now, just hanging out in the lobby. Just reporting on the ground. I'm not analyst number 3 from Citrini. It is not me.
I have contracted Sam to go to the Middle East. That was the big news. I said I had a big announcement today. That's the announcement. And so he's on the ground, and
Yeah. I'm AK Media's Citrini number 3, or analyst number 3. I'm reporting from the ground, sir. No, I mean, it's been great. I mean, to be honest, the vacation's been awesome. I was supposed to go to Jordan, and that flight got canceled. So we decided let's just stay here in Egypt, and we're actually.
Are you Egyptian? Or are you from Egypt? Or you have family, or this is just purely
Egyptian? I'm half Egyptian, but I didn't see any family here.
Okay,
just keeping it pretty low key. But yeah, man, it's pretty funny because like people come up to you, they just start talking in Arabic and asking for directions and stuff, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm some dude from California who's been long grabbed like bag holder over here, right? But
were you scared at all to make this trip, or Egypt's
no? Egypt is so peaceful, dude. Like Egypt is one of the few peaceful Middle East. Actually, there's a lot of peaceful Middle Eastern countries, but there are pretty much no conflict in Egypt. whenever it comes to the region.
Egypt was one of the mediators for this deal.
Oh, they were? Yeah, I'm having a hard time keeping track of like a lot of news stuff. I'm really trying, but given the current macro environment, it is very difficult to keep track of all these headlines when all I have is my phone. I don't have my laptop during the day. I use it at night. So, just trying to keep up here.
Okay, so I mean, obviously you probably saw the news on the ceasefire, so I want to get your raw thoughts on it. And do you believe it's legit at all?
I mean, I think the ceasefire is pretty legit. I think that U.S. ceasefire is legit, right? Like, we're not going to attack them anymore. We're heading toward a deal. This really reminds me of a year ago with the Israel and it wasn't the Iran conflict. It was I forgot the name of the region. Apologize that I can't remember that off the top of my head, but remember there was like some attacking happening after that, even though there was supposed to be a ceasefire, and Trump was like the mediator for that. And it still continued, but it eventually ended at some point, or maybe it didn't, but the market was just fine with it. I think that's kind of where we are right now. We did gap up 3.5% at the open, and we haven't seen those highs since the open. So I think maybe we're going to get a little bit of retracement here, but nothing too crazy. I definitely do think we bottomed early April, late March.
Why are you so confident on that?
I'm pretty confident at the bottom because the leaders did bottom ahead of that. When I say the leaders, I'm talking about the relative outperforming leaders. So you have a lot of semiconductor stocks bottomed way before that. You have a lot of photonics and optics stocks that bottomed before that, which pretty much leading most of the rally today. And honestly, Meta bottomed pretty strongly a couple of weeks back. So it's good to see that. Like, you're never going to have all the stocks bottom at the same time, but leadership is narrow, man. Like, I mean, look at this chart. Everything is obviously green today. The market's green about 2.5%. Tesla, I'm surprised that one was red today. Software, like you mentioned, a lot of software is red today, which does suck because I do have some software in portfolio. FinTech is lagging lately. I mean, there was some talk on Stocks and Spaces about Hood, the issue Hood is having. I don't think it's necessarily a fundamental issue. I think it's more just all of FinTech. Shift4 was the only one that was up more than a few percentage points. Everything else is like either flat or just like up 1 or 2% on a 2.5% day in the stock market, which is pretty wild.
Okay, so you are pretty confident that we've bottomed. How do you reconcile these ceasefire headlines? I know you haven't kept up with all of them, but Israel violated, Iran's upset about it. Do you think it's all just like abstractions from reality?
As long as we don't escalate, I think everything's going to be fine. But I think the pending issue here is that a year ago, the Strait of Hormuz was not closed. Today,
Correct.
It's closed or somewhat in control of Iran. Like, there's something that they have authority on today that they didn't have a year ago. Now they're basically charging a $2 million toll per ship today, right? And I don't know. To be honest, I don't know. I don't care how anyone phrases it. Like, we lost this war. Like, we did not come out on top, right? Iran is coming out getting reparations for all the damages. They're coming out, of course, with a toll, $2 million per boat. They're really getting their way in a lot of stuff. Now, obviously, they're probably set back because a lot of infrastructure was damaged. And as long as we get what we want, which is basically able to prevent nuclear enrichment over there, which I think that's what we want, right? Like, we can't really.
That's the main thing.
Right? Yeah, like, as long as we get that, that's fine. And I think Trump is okay with that. And I also think he's okay with the Strait of Hormuz being partially controlled as far as tolls goes for Oman as well as Iran, because that doesn't necessarily affect us since we don't get most of our oil from there. But what we do have is the exportation of liquefied natural gas. And I did buy some VG today. I bought it around $14.30 something cents. So, it is what it is right now. That's kind of like a hedge position more than anything. I don't think oil is going to go straight down, right? Like, we already have like a 20% down move in oil, 20% down move in VIX. So because you've had that contraction in VIX, because you've got a contraction in oil, things are going to bounce a little bit, right? I don't think it's going to be like easy cakes where we're out of the woods now. We're all good to go. We're going to go new all-time highs. Like, today's a great day. Don't get me wrong, but now we're only 3% from all-time highs, and pretty much in a crappy situation. I don't think this private credit issue has resolved itself. And I think that is, I don't want to say contagion, but I think that's probably part of the reason why you see a lot of selling in software, because they're so overly exposed to private credit.
So you're buying VG as a hedge. You think the market is fundamentally bottomed. Do you think high beta growth, like the Reddits of the world, at like really amazing numbers, but haven't been getting a premium? Do you think the market's ready to reward them with that now that there's a legit ceasefire, or those are still kind of scary to bet on?
Actually, I didn't look at how well AppLovin was down 5% today. Reddit was up 2%. These stocks are basically software stocks, though. And they're a victim of Anthropic. I don't think they're actually going to be a victim of Anthropic, or at least not all of them are. Like Reddit, AppLovin, maybe they might find some lower customer usage because of Anthropic and all the agentic AI. I certainly think there are some software stocks that are going to be doomed in the next few years. I don't think it's a cataclysmic event for all software, but this is all in the software space. So when you see software basically red today while the market's up 2.5%, they're going to sell this stuff and they're going to buy semiconductors.
Do you feel dry powder being allocated now that the ceasefire is legit makes sense, or would you rather want even more confirmation that we have a full deal coming in place?
I think it's good just to have some patience here. I mean, the market's up 2.5%. I know a lot of people that are buying pre-market, and we haven't seen those highs since pre-market for a lot of stocks.
Yeah.
Especially Microsoft. I mean, Microsoft was freaking red today, which is crazy to just even think about. Did they close red? I'm not sure if they closed red. But yeah, like that's insane that you have the market up 2.5% and Microsoft is basically red, like one of the most bullish days. In fact, today was the largest green day in the Dow Jones all year, right? So are we at 50K? I don't think we're at 50K, but
we are at 47.9.
Yeah. So they're gonna say 50K soon.
How about the neoclouds here? There's a lot of people in the chat saying they're selling Nebius, which is actually interesting to me. Do you think Nebius is a sell right here, or a buy?
It wouldn't be a bad idea to take some off the table. I don't know about selling it because it's just outlandishly leading across the entire sector.
Right.
You do have Iran still lagging. And this is the whole thing about this Iran versus Nebius thing. Okay, guys, you could be bullish Nebius, but it doesn't mean you have to be like uber bearish Iran, right? It's the same. They're doing the same thing. Maybe one of them is doing as good. The other one, I don't know, whatever it is. I'm not going to get in the middle of this whole debate thing, but it's like, look, if Nebius does good, the whole sector is going to do good as well. But there will be leaders in it, and it's obvious today that it's Nebius between those two.
You said the U.S. has lost the war. What would we need to get from Iran in the peace deal for us to at least win the deal or be closer to winning the deal?
I don't think we won. I don't think there's anything we can get to be like, hey, we won the war. Like, I think Trump saw the midterm stuff, and he's like, look, I need to get out of this right now, because you saw the poly market odds. It was like 60-40 Democrats for the midterms, and like that is not what he wanted. And it was very clear about a couple of weeks ago when his narrative started changing. And the dude taco, right? But the problem is, in this situation that I've said before, was that he can't taco the whole situation. He can only taco us, the U.S., but he can't tell these other countries what to do. They've gotten deeply involved, and Iran is probably the only country out there that has called him on his BS, and that is a problem for oil, right?
Right.
So what is it right now? Democrats? Yeah, the Democrats are pretty much gonna get the sweep, which he didn't want this, and I don't think he can do anything about it. What can he do now? Like what can he possibly do unless he starts bending over for Iran?
Is there a world in which we get Iran to give up their entire enrichment program and we give them sanctions relief, and that's the win?
I don't think that's a win.
If that does happen, it would beg the question. So this is the thing. If we're like, Iran, give up all your nukes, utopian scenario, and we'll relieve some sanctions. And Iran's like, okay, fine. I think everyone's going to be like, how could you not have diplomatically come up with that solution a month ago? Right?
Yeah.
Like if they were willing to give up their nukes because of sanctions, which is hundreds of billions of dollars theoretically, did we have to go through a war to get here?
Exactly. I mean, like, if Trump went to Iran before all this happened and said, like, look, you can get your $2 million ship toll, you can just get rid of nuclear rich program, we'll do this, you'll do this, Iran would be like, cool, let's do it, right? And they wouldn't really have to give up anything, right? If anything, dude, do you think they're going to stop?
No.
They didn't stop 30 years ago. They're not going to stop now, right? Like, it's like, who knows at this point? Maybe CIA is good enough they can figure this stuff out, whatever it is. But I don't think the market cares about it, to be honest. I'm looking at this strictly from the financial market perspective. I don't think the market cares about the nuclear enrichment. We don't. We care about the oil. That's really what it is.
This is what happens when men negotiate. We throw bombs at each other. So.
Yeah. And I don't want to seem like I'm emotionless, where I don't care about people. Look, it sucks that people have to get hurt, but we are talking about strictly finance right now, right? If we're going to talk about our feelings and stuff, completely different story, right? It sucks that there's war. The dude said world peace at the beginning of the year, and we got the complete opposite. We don't even know what's going to happen with Cuba, right? That could be on the line as well. But sticking to financial markets, I don't think financial markets care about nuclear enrichment in Iran, whether it happens or not. They care about the overmoose and constrainment of oil supply around the entire world. Even though we're not affected by it, it does affect inflation.
So given how the Greenland situation played out, given how the Liberation Day situation played out, how do you think in 2 weeks this ends up playing out?
2 weeks is too soon. I feel like it's so difficult to anticipate what's going to happen in 2 weeks. I do think we're going to be higher probably in a few months. I mean, at this rate, it could be in 2 weeks, but I hate to give these predictions on where I think is going to happen because.
But do you think he's going to extend another 2 week ceasefire? Do you think they're going to have to really?
Oh, you mean the ceasefire?
Yeah. Forget the markets. How do you think Trump's going to say, "Hey, this is the deal," and how do you think he would come out to at least try to symbolically prove that he wins?
I don't think we're attacking them again. I think that's it. The reinforcements of the region is, what did he say? They're going to be hanging out over there. Keep making sure things. It's what does that mean, man? Come on. They're going to be hanging around. It's come on. We're not going to attack them anymore. I believe the U.S. is done attacking and being aggressive with Iran, unless, of course, we get that black swan event where something actually does happen, which I do doubt that something's going to happen from our side. But Israel and Iran is probably going to string along for a little bit. I don't think that that's going to be over.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's very fair. I think Israel is a different variable in this to try to figure out. But dude, Sam, I agree with you. I don't think we are going back to bombing them again. I don't think Trump wants to. I don't think he was going to have a depth to the entire civilization. I think he just likes saying this hyperbolic stuff. And you're telling me last minute he decided not to do it? Really? He had his hand on the red button and he decided not to an hour before. I don't believe that.
I thought he was going to do it. I was trying to act so confident, he's not going to do his idea. But at the same time, I never really tried to ever make a prediction of what he's going to do because we don't even know how the market's going to react after that.
Yeah.
Right. Even if he did it, who knows what the market would have done? I don't think we'd be 3% up, but it's who knows what he would do? All I know is that look, we're not going to attack them anymore. I really don't think we will. But that doesn't mean that we're going to go straight up from here because there's a lot of other moving parts and variables in it.
Do you think the fact that we held the 2.5% today in the midst of Israel violating the ceasefire, allegedly Lebanon, all that stuff, do you think that was a sign of the market saying we still are not worried about all these small things that could take place? Because at the end of the day, just like you said, we don't think we're going back into war.
Yeah, I forget the exact events that happened when the market bottomed. But I do remember shortly after that was when the verbiage started changing.
Yeah.
Where instead of saying, oh, well, the war might be month or two or whatever, those are everything started changing. They were all kind of coordinated on it. Rubio started saying 2 more weeks, 4 more weeks. Trump started saying 2 more weeks, 4 more weeks. They started giving harder and closer deadlines. And that's kind of where the market bottomed. And I think the market sniffed that out. Right. So since then, the S&P 500 is up 5% since then, pretty dramatically. And I'm looking at the tape throughout the time, I'm seeing how stocks are reacting. There's stocks that are higher, that bottom a lot sooner and that are much higher, like Nebius is continuing to push that 130 level, which is around the time in the beginning or before the war started. Marvell Technologies at 115. This thing was at $90, even $85 when the market bottomed.
Yeah.
Fastly was at like $24, $25. Now it's at like $33, $34. IRDM is at $34. Rocket Lab is at 60 or around $70 now. Like the space themes, the semiconductors, optics plays, like those have bottomed way ahead, and they're up way more than the market since then, like dramatically more. And what we thought bottom was software, and I can't tell you what's going to happen with software. Like I don't know. I thought it bottomed, but that's not what I was buying. What I was buying during the dip were what was leading what had already bottomed.
It's a fair assessment. Sam, thank you for your thoughts right here. I'm putting Sam's YouTube right there in the chat. You can follow him. Thank you for joining all the way from the ground.
Yes, sir.
In Egypt.
Hey, man, reporting live. Reporting live, going to give you the good stuff as soon as it comes out. I'm going to make sure.
How long is your vacation? A week?
No, actually, I left. I left last Tuesday.
Oh, you've been there for a minute.
Yeah, I've been there for about a week and a half. Yeah, I come back in a few days. So I'm gonna be in Hurghada until tomorrow, and then we're going to Cairo, and then coming back Saturday.
Dude, this guy had a good 2025, traveling the world. Looks like the portfolio nicely paying for this vacation. I love it.
Let me tell you something. Every time I go on vacation, because I usually go on vacation during November-ish and during this time, right? See, maybe it has to do with seasonality, but the market usually is dropping when I leave, head to the vacation, and it's bottoming as I'm leaving. The same thing happened with Spain last November, and the same thing. I was looking at like I was looking at the SPY chart, and I was looking at the trips I've been on. When I went to Spain the first time, was November 2022, right? It's just like, yeah, no, that was when I went to Spain the first time. Dude, it's crazy. I'm like, look, I'll let you guys know when I'm going on vacation again, so that way we know when to sell everything and buy puts.
Yeah, or when we have a meetup. That's when we talk about.
Yeah, that's the next time. That's the next time.
All right, Sam, appreciate you. Put in Sam's Twitter in the chat, and we will talk to you again. Thank you, man.
All right, sir. Thank you.
Later. All right, that's what we got from Mr. Sam on the ground. Again, there's his Twitter right there in the chat. A couple other headlines we're getting in just now. Axios, House Democrats are making a push to use the 25th Amendment to remove Trump from office. As much as some people might want that to happen, the problem is you need a majority of Congress to agree. And I don't think there's any chance in hell you're going to get even one Republican to vote for that, because, I mean, they know the pushback they would get. So the 25th Amendment stuff, when you see those headlines, I mean, you just can't get it done without the majority of Congress. And, the Republicans are probably not going to vote for that. Having said that, based on that headline, there was a New York Times article, and I know people think the New York Times is fake news, so take it with a grain of salt, but they did a pretty extensive deep dive into Trump's cabinet, and I'll just tell you the conclusion of it. Conclusion was no one in the cabinet wanted to do this. And when I mean this, I mean the war. Essentially, the conclusion was the president's cabinet was mostly against this war, and they understood the consequences, but, and this is where you either believe the New York Times or you don't, the New York Times is reporting that none of them had the courage to stand up to the president in the end to actually say, hey, Mr. President, we shouldn't do this. And quite frankly, I don't think the reporting is that off on this, because Trump has joked passive-aggressively in multiple press conferences, and I've seen every single one of them, about Besant and Vance in particular not wanting to do the war. He says it in one of those ways where he's not like, actively angry at them, but he's saying it in a way that was like, hey, you didn't want to do it, and now we did it, and look how good it's going, right? And so I wonder over the coming weeks how many cabinet officials are actually going to come out and make the claim around how this war played out, or if they're all going to continue to kind of parrot the same argument from Trump, which is that ultimately this needed to be done for nuclear weapons. But as of now, we at least have somewhat of a ceasefire in place. Hassett was live just now. He's making the same argument about oil as he's making about tariffs, which is that the oil spike in inflation will be temporary.
Talk about the stronger than expected wartime economy. Welcome back to the show, my good friend, National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett. Kevin, so maybe we've seen the peak in oil prices. I'm probably willing to make that bet. I'm not going to make you make a bet one way or the other on national TV. I'm sure you have your own opinion. But the fact of the matter is, if this war is over or very nearly over, if we have seen the peak in oil prices, the futures market, as you know, is still over $30 lower than the spot market, whether it's WTI or Brent. How bad is the impact going to be? Let's start with inflation. How bad is it going to be?
Well, first of all, there's a CPI number that's going to be coming out on Friday, and that will include the spike in energy prices that we just saw. But if you look at the Cleveland Fed, they're forecasting correctly, I believe, that's going to be the one-time thing, and we're going to go back to normal because, as you know, this kind of a quick spike in oil prices doesn't lead to inflation. It's a level adjust that corrects itself almost immediately, which is what futures markets are saying.
I really hope he's right about this, because if he is right, then that's why we are going to see hopefully a significant level of downside momentum on CPI eventually, even if it's not going to be happening on Friday. The probability for a rate hike, by the way, went down pretty nicely. It's still up there at 0.5%, but it was almost at 3%. 2 days ago. So the ceasefire at least has created a little bit of a catalyst to, potentially stop thinking of hikes. The other thing about inflation that's really interesting is that, structurally we were seeing a decent chunk of disinflation. Whether you look at auto insurance, shelter was the big part of it, obviously energy until the war started. So the question is, if oil can go back down even to like $80, we were at 55, and 80 is still substantial. But if we can go back down to 80 from 117, I wonder if the structural disinflation that we were seeing, labor market in general being weak, potentially created some consumer demand issues, which was good for inflation. If that could still persist, and the energy crisis could maybe after a month or two not be the biggest concern, because again, if the market was so concerned about a bad CPI print that's happening in 2 days, we wouldn't be up 2.5% today. $17 on the S&P would not have happened if we were so concerned about inflation. The market has obviously priced it in and said, okay, we'll move on from this if the war truly is coming to an end, which is the beautiful thing about markets. They can price things in really quickly, but that's also the bad thing about markets is, if they can sense the opposite direction, they can price things in the opposite direction and start selling things off. And maybe that's why the S&P ended up holding strong. Yeah, consumer weaker is obviously potentially good for inflation. Palantir insider sells. Let me pull it up right now. Let's see. My guess is there was a big insider sell today because, again, it's really hard to make sense of why it took the hit that it did. So let's pull this up. No, nothing. Last insider sale was March 16th, and it was for 64,000 shares. So we should have seen it usually is out by 4:30. It's 4:55. Maybe it'll be out later, but I am seeing 0 insider sells on Palantir today, which means maybe it was something else. Palantir is still down about 6%. Morgan Stanley's Bitcoin ETF draws 34 million on day one in demand. Morgan Stanley put out a Bitcoin ETF officially today. They were one of the only big banks that didn't really have a Bitcoin ETF offering. 34 million is not too bad. What about the other ETFs? You have IBIT. Wow, yesterday was a net 159 million sell-off across the ETFs. We'll see today if that reverses. And maybe we'll get some more momentum. I think Burry panicked retail today. Maybe, dude. I really don't think Burry caused that big of a decline. But if he did, then he did. I guess we'll see how the markets ultimately think more about that. Can insiders sell covered calls on their shares? I don't think they can, but I think they have certain agreements with the brokerages that custody their shares, in which they can definitely borrow against them. Selling covered calls, I don't know. I don't think you can, because that's kind of like, I don't know, because you might have insider information on. I don't know. That's a great question. I don't know if a CEO can sell calls on their shares. That'd be amazing, though, right? You could just sell super far out, even if you collect a penny, but you have like 50 million shares, just be raking it in. They have to get approved by legal. That's crazy. Do they have to disclose like an SEC filing of we sold covered calls? Because that would be very, very interesting here. Palantir's down because IGV got smoked today. Yes, but I don't know if Palantir's decline is only based on IGV. I agree with you. IGV got hit. That would explain like 1% or 2% of the decline. But I mean, we saw a 7% hit. So I don't know. Maybe it's something else. Maybe people took profits. But again, it's not the craziest thing in the world. Their girlfriend can sell shares or sell calls for them instead. Okay, so let's look at some of the other headlines we got. I mean, we covered sort of most of this stuff. I think the majority of people are still very confused on if any of this is real. I was talking to Steve today, and he said he wants to give it another few days. He doesn't really believe in this run today. I mean, he likes it. He's happy about it. But then he sees the Lebanon news, and he's like, dude, how could this ceasefire be real? And that conventional thinking makes sense. But then again, if the market's like, well, not every ceasefire is perfect and it takes a couple of days for it to like fully go through, then, you know, maybe the market is looking past that. I really don't know why the market didn't drop at all, like not even a little bit from the highs. I mean, we had like 30 minutes of it touching 673, then we bounced right back up as we saw those headlines come in. But it's almost like the buying pressure, whether it was algos or institutions or retirement funds or retail, came in and said, nope, we're keeping it up today. And we're not easily going to let this thing fall down right here. S&P again up 2.5% on the day. This headline I also thought was pretty interesting. So UBS has a valuation metric that is pretty outdated, but they've used this. They don't use it on every stock, but they've used it for the past 20 years. It's called UBS Holt, H-O-L-T. And the head of their Holt technology says NVIDIA should be worth $22 trillion. Which, I mean, that would be really fun if NVIDIA was worth $22 trillion. By the way, volume on the S&P today was 92 million. Average volume is 98 million. Past 2 days, we had 36 million and 50 million. So the volume actually was very good today compared to the past 2 days, and it was on par for its daily average. Although some individual stocks had a little bit of lower average. But yeah, he says, we think the share price should be about 400% higher. That would put NVIDIA at 22 trillion. He says it's a big number for investors to swallow. That's the big pushback I get, which is what he said after this technology. I don't know if the Holtz technology is necessarily the most accurate, but 22 trillion would be pretty cool. It's just I don't think the market's going to give it that premium. Yes, Friday, April 10th is the beginning of the first negotiation in Islamabad for Pakistan. Do you think this was short covering or actual buying? That's a great point. I don't think we're going to fully know until the end of tomorrow. I want to say this was buying, dude. Like I mean, one can make the argument that shorts were on the wrong side of this, especially in some of the high beta names. But then again, if you were short Tesla or short Palantir or short Robinhood or short Rocket Lab or short Oracle, I mean, a stock moving up $4 or $5 on you is not going to stop you out of your short, you know? Now, if you were long oil and you had a stop loss and, you know, we fell 17%, yeah, you're probably going to get stopped out of your long. That makes more sense. But the high beta names didn't have a crazy day. And Tesla and Palantir would be emblematic of it if they did, and both were basically red. I mean, which name had a really good day that's super high beta? That's also not like a $2 billion company. There's not many of them. Reddit, 2%. AMD, I guess, 4.6. AMD is not that high beta, though. SanDisk, well, I guess I would say SanDisk. That's up 10%. It was up even more. It was at 808. Micron maybe can put in that bucket. Micron was up 7%. But there weren't a ton of them. Bloom Energy, I guess you can say, to an extent, even though that was up 15, ended up 9. Orbs, did Orbs actually have a good day? Orbs was up 13%. Again, Orbs is just a really small company. Yeah, a lot of these AI infrastructure names, right? Bloom Energy, Corning. Corning is a great example. That one was up 16 or 11%. So it was not the tech leaders. It was not the Mag 7s. It was not your conventional names that most people think about, which to me signals that I don't think it was shorts covering. I think there was people saying, all right, we're going long, ceasefire. Let's get into it. And probably that explains why the call premiums were double the put premiums over the past couple of weeks. People have been waiting for this moment. They've been waiting for the taco. They've been waiting for the V-shape. And they got it yesterday. I just don't know if it is going to last. Doug said, I bought Waste Management, Caterpillar, Grab, Amazon, and Palantir. A couple people saying they bought more Oscar here today. AEHR is still sub 2 billion, I think. Air Test Systems, yeah, 1.93 billion, but this one had a great day, up 25%. Now, again, a name like Air Test Systems, right? Like they had a good earnings, but how does that name go up 25%? Well, there has to be some level of risk on appetite. Bitcoin at 72. How do you, like, you have to have some people come out and play and say, all right, we're ready to put money into the markets. Otherwise, those names just don't catch a bid as easily. Like, I don't think, massive algos care that much about some of these smaller caps. Marvell breaking through some resistance at 114, hit almost 118 on the day. So, yeah, I think this was net new money coming in. I do not think this was short covering, but the extent of that money staying in is contingent on this negotiation actually, not going to shit.
So you hear her there saying without limitations, that is, the White House does not want the Iranians to be able to charge tolls for ships to pass through the strait. We'll see again, Mike, whether that ends up being part of this negotiation or not. Is that a red line for the White House? We don't know at this point. One other thing to flag for you here real quick is Mark Rutte, the head of NATO, is here on campus at the White House right now. He's meeting with the president behind closed doors, and Caroline Leavitt said that it's at least possible that they discuss the United States leaving NATO during this conversation. So that would be a sort of geopolitically world-shaking thing. We'll watch for that. Unclear whether that's actually on the table or just one of the many possibilities here. But the president has been venting frustration with NATO for a number of weeks now, and now he is sitting head-to-head with the Secretary General of NATO behind closed doors here at the White House, Mike.
Yeah, who knows if that's...
The U.S. is not leaving NATO. That's not happening. That's just not, like, I don't think that's happening. I really don't. If it does, I'll be wrong, but I don't think there's any chance the U.S. actually leaves NATO. But what have we learned from Trump? He's going to try to make you think something crazy is happening. And then at the last moment, it's not going to happen. I mean, we've been through this at this point 5 times in the past 2.5 years. And so I don't think that would end up being the case. I hope Vance is ready to lead these negotiations. I don't know if Kushner and Witkoff are going to have any goodwill with the Iranians, but Vance to me is relatively reasonable. He's pretty decent at communication. I would hope that he would be able to sit across the Iranians and get something done. But then again, we don't know. Like these are still the unknowns that are clouding the judgment, I think, of the broader market in terms of, if this could end up really being beneficial. Apparently, Rubio's not going to be there. Rubio is not going to be there. Oh, tomorrow, yes, it is the anniversary. April 9th tomorrow. Him telling us to buy the dip. What were the top 20 stocks in the options market today? Let's take a look at that as well. Imagine Trump gives us the signal tomorrow. AEHR is down how much? What, they 5%? They diluted? They probably diluted, right? How much did they? That's not too crazy, dude. It was up 25% on the day. It's giving back 5%. That's not too bad. How much did they dilute by? Also, they're smart to dilute, dude. Their stock's up freaking 140%. Like, it would be stupid if they don't take advantage of this. 60 million? That's not that crazy. Okay. That's actually small compared to the market cap right now, but that's not like AXTI. They diluted by almost 100% of the market cap in terms of shares outstanding. But then they recover too, right? So I don't think the dilution is the worst thing right here. Here were the top 20 stocks. So you had Tesla with 3.6 million options traded today, 1.9 million calls, 1.6 million puts. Again, we don't know exactly if those calls and puts were bought or sold, but you do have a little bit of a call skew. And then you had NVIDIA, then you had Meta, which had a great day. Intel, Amazon, Apple, Palantir, Microsoft, Micron, Google, AMD, Nokia entered into that top 20. Broadcom, way more calls than puts. Look at the dude, 385,000 calls, 47,000 puts. Massively skewed to the calls. Broadcom, SoFi, MicroStrategy, TeraWolf, Google, Netflix, Hood, and JD. These were your top 20 names. Yeah, why is Nokia up there? Why is TeraWolf there as well? Like, why are people trading TeraWolf more than Nebius or IREN in the options market? Because they're still all they're all neoclouds at the end of the day. What does Farzad think about everything? So Farzad responded to my tweet last night. I think he is as confused as everyone else is, but basically he said, this is just the beginning of a global conflict for the next 20 years as the race for AI supremacy accelerates. We're never going back. The past is gone forever. We've entered a new world. And I think he's right. Geopolitically, I do not think the ability to have like world peace or anything, or like a globalized system where we all respect each other's beliefs, I think that shit's it's gone. That's out of the window. It's not happening. I mean, what this taught everybody is that Iran has way more power than we thought. And to say Iran does not have leverage, I think you've got to I don't know how you're analyzing the situation objectively. Iran held up oil prices for a month and a half. They've got leverage. Whether you agree or disagree with Iran as a political institution, they've got leverage, and the United States was not willing to enter into a military confrontation at the Strait of Hormuz. And that's why I can understand why Sam's opinion is that he doesn't think the United States got much out of this war, because if we weren't able to go that far, for obvious reasons, we didn't want to get into a conflict, then we let the Iranians have that sovereignty. And if the Iranians keep that sovereignty, then obviously that's going to create a lot of leverage. Now, look, the United States has a lot of leverage as well, geopolitically across the entire world. But this conflict at least proved to me as a U.S. citizen, our oil prices can spike up 95% in a month if the Iranians just decide to close the strait. And that's kind of scary. But that is one of the takeaways from this. And I think the markets are going to have to price in what that means geopolitically and long term for not only for markets, but for how humans will ultimately interact with these different countries. OpenAI CFO, quote, "We are allocating IPO shares to retail investors." Okay. OpenAI looking for some juicy exit liquidity as well. There you go. SpaceX and OpenAI. Again, I think these are going to be great companies. I really wonder what those valuations look like. Also, the idea that OpenAI only goes public at $1 trillion seems like a fantasy. I mean, if SpaceX is getting $2 trillion, OpenAI is already worth $850 billion. You would imagine OpenAI is going to go for 1.5, at least something around that range. And they're going to need people to get ready to buy up that stock. The West has already exerted power through strength. We look just weak now. Strong men create easy times. Now we invite the invaders in the name of inclusivity. Well, you definitely have a lot of people arguing that the United States looks weak after this. I mean, I don't know. I think it is going to be debated in the geopolitical world for many, many months about what this actually meant. Also, if this conflict is actually over, right? Long term, the conflict's not over, but at least, in the next 2 weeks, and then maybe we get a peace deal, hopefully, that is lasting many, many years before a conflict starts again. But there is very little doubt in my mind that we will eventually have a conflict again with Iran. Like, it just seems inevitable. It's going to happen again, whether it'll be because of a U.S. president or Israel. There'll be some reason for why we fight with them again. And hopefully that is just very much in the future when things aren't as aggressive as they are today. But it doesn't look like it's slowing down. Micron right there, still up 7%. S&P 2.5 as well. Yeah, it was about 5 ships that flow through today. So not really the 120 that we needed. OpenAI CRO said enterprise now makes up 40% of company revenue and is on track to match consumer by the end of 2026. Yeah, I think OpenAI figured out exactly that the playbook is enterprise, not consumer anymore. Iran got everything they wanted out of this. If you had told them 40 days ago they would get everything they're getting right now, they would have rolled over on their backs and said, please, please do this. Yeah, I mean, going back to the point I made with Sam, if the inevitable agreement ends up being sanction relief for them giving up their nukes, you can't tell me there wasn't a way we could have diplomatically come to that agreement. Unless maybe we had to decimate their military the way Trump says in order to get them to even agree to that. But realistically, the sanctions relief is what they're bargaining for, because that's a lot of money that enters into the country now. So I don't know. It's obviously very confusing how this is all playing out, but the most we can analyze is that if the war is over, then maybe the market's not going to be in as ugly of a situation. By the way, here's the update on Elon and Sam Altman. I talked about this yesterday, market close. But Elon is looking for about $150 billion in damages in this new OpenAI lawsuit.
CEO Sam Altman and president of that company, Greg Brockman, removed from their roles at OpenAI. As a legal remedy, they now ask to strip those executives of what they call authority and personal financial benefits they extracted from OpenAI's illicit for-profit operations and conversion. The backdrop here, Kelly, Musk sued OpenAI, which he also co-founded, alleging that he was manipulated and deceived after OpenAI explored converting to a for-profit. Jury selection for that trial kicks off in a few weeks here in San Francisco, and Musk is now seeking more than $100 billion in damages from OpenAI, and co-defendant Microsoft now says he would actually return what he calls ill-gotten gains to OpenAI's nonprofit arm. It does come just a day after OpenAI penned a letter to the California and Delaware attorneys general accusing Musk of anti-competitive behavior, including possible collusion between the Tesla CEO and Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg. This all has to do with text messages where Musk asked Zuckerberg for help acquiring OpenAI. Meta had already sided with Musk in this fight, sent a letter to the California AG a couple of years ago asking to block the company's for-profit conversion. Musk left OpenAI back in 2018 after trying to merge that company with Tesla, later launched xAI, which now competes directly with Altman's firm. And then that firm recently merged with SpaceX. The drama, Kelly, comes as OpenAI and Musk SpaceX look to go public in record listings expected this year. Back over.
If Elon actually gets $100 billion, from Sam Altman and OpenAI, I mean, it would be like a pretty big deal. I don't think he's going to be able to easily get that. But if he does, then, you know, it might be OpenAI admitting that they made some mistakes early on when they were incorporating into an actual company. Bloomberg right now, the Bank of Japan is likely to raise interest rates in April. That's actually pretty big. They held on to their rates, I think, over the past 2 meetings. And they kind of have to now because obviously they're printing money like crazy. So inflation's going up, which is why their yields are also going up. 4.295 on the 10-year. Is the mic bad? Mic still bad? Or is it okay? But the Japanese yield is probably... Or is it okay? Oh, no, we're better now. We're better now. Okay. Yeah, the yield's going up means they have to raise rates. But, you know, raising rates is not going to be the best thing for economic activity there. By the way, this was the update on Meta and why this was up 4% today.
This was originally codenamed Avocado. It's launching on the Meta AI app and website today, rolling out to its other apps and AI glasses in coming weeks. Now, Meta says Muse Spark is its most powerful model yet, but instead of launching with a massive, sophisticated model to compete with the likes of ChatGPT or Gemini, which many expected given Meta's spending, this is a more limited release as Meta's Superintelligence Labs chief Alex Wang slowly rolls out his work. Now, Muse Spark seems initially focused on custom uses for Meta's apps with a special mode for shopping, surfacing ideas from creators that users already follow, and visual coding tools to create websites or mini games to play with friends. Now, Muse Spark is the product of Wang's 9 months of building Meta's Superintelligence Labs, along with hundreds of billions of dollars of investment in AI infrastructure following the disappointment of Meta's prior AI models. Now, Meta seems to be trying to lower expectations and address potential criticism given Meta's AI spending, saying that this is only the start and we have larger models in development, including a more sophisticated contemplating mode, which Meta says is competitive with frontier models such as Gemini DeepThink and GPT Pro. That model, they say, will roll out later. Notably, Meta is also opening the door to a new AI revenue stream, saying it plans to eventually offer paid access to this model's API like Anthropic's Claude and Google's Gemini do. Meta shares now up about 6.5%. Scott?
Yeah, they are ripping on this news. Julia, thank you so much for.
This model needs to give them another stream of monetization, because otherwise I think this pump is obviously going to fade, because the markets once again are going to discount that Meta's only an advertising play. But it looks kind of promising. You got Meta right there up 6.5% of the day. At one point it was up 10%. I mean, if they're talking about shopping and these multimodal experiences, Zucks can get this stock to $800 by just getting rid of Reality Labs. Like, just cut it off completely. Take the L, change the name Meta back to Facebook, get this whole metaverse nonsense out of the way. That stock's going to the moon. But these billionaires and their egos, bro, their freaking egos. He won't do it. And it's a very simple thing to do. What do we think PCE will be tomorrow? That's a good question. The headline on PCE for tomorrow is 0.4. 0.4. GDP growth we also get tomorrow is 0.7 expected. I think it's probably going to be around that range. I don't think we're going to get too much of a surprise. Maybe we get to 0.7 because of oil. This is also for February. This is not for March. So you're not really going to see like a massive. We have initial jobs claim as well. We have continuing job claims. Core price index year over year is at 3%. I think 3.3, 3.4 is not crazy on around PCE. But again, that's still February. It's not March. Does CPI and PCE really matter with all this going on? Probably not. I mean, honestly, I kind of agree. I don't think PCE or CPI really does matter that much. It will matter for like maybe 5 minutes and the market will react to it. But a ceasefire headline probably matters a lot more. Which is why I don't think a crappy CPI on Friday, which is going to be crappy, we know it is going to have that much of an issue. Disregarding the metaverse, the name change makes sense because it's more than Facebook now. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, like, probably they're not going to change the name back to Facebook. But the metaverse itself is dead. Like, does anyone actually believe that the metaverse is going to become a real thing? Or that if it is, Facebook's going to have control over the metaverse? I think that's cooked. That idea is just not real. They spent hundreds of billions on it. They wasted it. It is what it is. Companies make mistakes. Stock's still close to $2 trillion. If Zucks could just admit it. I mean, they're already firing people from Reality Labs. They're not firing them because there's tons of demand for the meta. No one spends time in the metaverse. Who actually spends time in the who puts on their VR headset and chills in the metaverse? Like, it's not a real thing. Someone just filed a Pepe ETF. Canary just filed a Pepe ETF. Oh my gosh, dude. We don't need these top signals coming out right after we get a relief rally. Goodness gracious. People still trade this shit? It is $1 billion market cap, Pepe. It did 500 million of volume over the past 24 hours. 0.05 cents. It is not PP, it's Pepe. No one calls it PP. Why are we filing Pepe ETFs, bro? This is not good. That's Tom Lee. Oh my gosh. Tom Lee came out with a Pepe fund. Pepe ETF. Mitt, you need to interview Trump. I would not mind interviewing Trump. I just don't think. Maybe I can ask the White House quant. Maybe I can ask Matt to put in a good word for me. Let's see if I can get the interview. Farcoin is still a thing. It's still worth $1 billion. It is still worth a thing. Pepe, huh? Meanwhile, amid streaming in 2035 instead of a metaverse because all jobs are gone because of AI. Dude, the more I think about the labor market argument, yes, it's scary, but there is a part of me that's just like AI should be an accelerant. It shouldn't freaking replace all of our jobs. Like, and I know it's scary because we're like seeing how obvious it is for AI to replace stuff, but I don't know. Companies are going to have to figure it out and make sure AI actually enhances work. Because if it doesn't, we've got a much bigger issue on our hands. And hopefully we don't run into it being that bad. S&P after hours, 675. Mint in a Bitcoin, then make an ETF for it, then make a holding company that dilutes shares and issues bonds to raise money to buy more of your own coin. You know, if I do this, my last name will have to turn into Sailor. Because I will have to make sure I give credit to the original person who came up with this idea. You guys saw that New York Times headline this morning, right? About the atom back being the Bitcoin, being Satoshi. This British cryptographer, apparently the New York Times, they did like a freaking 30-minute article on this guy about being Satoshi. If that's true, this guy owns like 100 billion. How much does Satoshi have? Satoshi Bitcoin net worth. It's like 100-something billion, right? Now it's 78 billion. He has 1.1 million Bitcoin. 1.1 million. That's a lot. That is a lot. Cactus, there's no way this freaking headline is real, bro. Don't tell me this shit is real. I don't even want to read it until I confirm it's real. Oh my gosh, it's real. Grindr is setting to host its first White House Correspondents' Dinner party. Huh. I wonder how you get an invite. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Although, just wonder what hors d'oeuvres they serve at this party. What is this? Grindr's hosting a White House Correspondents'? The LGBTQ dating app will be joining the crowded party scene ahead of the annual dinner on April 25th. Quote, nobody does connections like Grindr, and the White House Correspondent Dinner Weekend is the most iconic place in the country to make them. We figured it was time to host. No matter what their political views are, people who are gay should be welcome on Grindr. We want them to have a good experience. Grindr represents a global community. Grindr will host its inaugural White House Correspondents' Dinner Weekend party. Well, that's the last company I expected would be sponsoring a party here. Wait, that is crazy. The White House Correspondents' Dinner is when the president basically does a comedic routine, if I'm not wrong, right? That's when the president gets on stage and he tries to be funny. I think Trump skipped it last year. Am I right? Trump skipped White House Correspondents' Dinner in 2025. He skipped it all throughout the first term. He skipped it in 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. We had the pandemic. What about in 2025? Did he do it? 2025, Trump continued the boycott. Oh, so Trump's not going to do it again. Trump's probably not going to do it. Yeah, the president does get roasted. In fact, a lot of people think Trump decided to run for president after getting roasted at a party, at a White House Correspondents' Dinner back in, I think this was 2014, when Obama made fun of him. And a lot of people said that's when he started his villain arc. Wow, so Trump's never done one of... No, Trump did it in 2016, though, and he made fun of Hillary Clinton. I remember Trump did do it before the election. But maybe it makes sense to skip it this year because I don't know if we want him making jokes about the war, which is, I guess, that would be the core subject. Oh, sorry, it was 2014, not 2011, not the video that people say started off Trump's rise to become president.
Trump is here tonight. Now, I know that he's taken some flack lately. But no one is happier, no one is prouder to put this birth certificate matter to rest than the Donald. And that's because he can finally get back to focusing on the issues that matter. Like, did we fake the moon landing? What really happened in Roswell? And where are Biggie and Tupac? All kidding aside, obviously we all know about your credentials and breadth of experience. For example, no, seriously, just recently in an episode of Celebrity Apprentice at the steakhouse, the men's cooking team did not impress the judges from Omaha Steaks. And there was a lot of blame to go around, but you, Mr. Trump, recognized that the real problem was a lack of leadership. And so ultimately, you didn't blame Little John or Meatloaf. You fired Gary Busey. And these are the kind of decisions that would keep me up at night. Well handled, sir. Well handled. Say what you will about Mr. Trump. He certainly would bring some change to the White House. Let's see what we've got up there.
Obviously, Trump was not entertained by that back in 2011. And a lot of people credit that dinner as the day Trump decided he wanted his revenge with Obama. S&P right there down a little bit after hours. So yeah, Trump's probably, let me ask Gemini, is Trump going to attend the 2026 White House Correspondents' Dinner? If he goes, he's probably not going to be giving a speech. As of March 2026 reports, Trump has confirmed he will attend the dinner, making his first appearance as president in both terms. Okay, but is he going to give a speech? Is he actually going to talk? He plans to accept the invitation to be the guest of honor, ending his previous boycott. Okay, is he going to give a comedic routine? While Trump has not officially released the script, he has stated he intends to make the event the greatest, hottest, and most spectacular dinner of any kind. Oz Perlman will be the traditional comedian headline. They always have a traditional comedian that's there. It'll be a patriotic... Oh, it is the 250th birthday celebration of it. Okay, so I guess we'll find out. But Grindr is going to be having the after party here. That is crazy, bro. Grindr. Seriously, if anyone has the invitation, though, let me know. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. But if you do know a guy who knows a guy, no, I'm just kidding. I'm obviously just kidding. It's just jokes. Oh, we got a new headline on retail investor sentiment. Let's look at this. We covered this 2 weeks ago. It was bad, and it's getting worse. Daily net call option purchases by retail investors are down to only 2 million, the lowest since January 2024. Net daily call option purchases have fallen 12 million, or 85% since October. That's when we had the first glitch in crypto and the soybean stuff. 2024 average was 6 million, or 200% higher. Now, this is all throughout March, so we did not have the April. I know we're barely through April, but the ceasefire, the post ceasefire retail activity counted yet. IBKR, Robinhood, they were both glitching today. There was probably massive amounts of traffic. So maybe retail is going to come back. But if the ceasefire goes away and then markets go back down, then obviously retail is going to leave again. So this is not good for Robinhood, though. Not good for Robinhood, not good for Coinbase, not good for IBKR, not good for any of those platforms that really do depend on retail excitement. Sam says, I don't care. I'll go. All right. Sam is ready to go. Hollis says, you don't even need someone to get you an invite. Dude, I'm not cool enough to attend a White House Correspondents' Dinner. I would actually, dude, I would love to go to one of those things. That would be crazy. The amount of people there would be crazy. Like everyone in political media goes to those dinners. CNBC, CNN, Fox, The Hill, MSNBC, Newsmax. I mean, if you're in political media, you are at that dinner. So it would be kind of cool to go there. For this one, you can be the guest of honor. Dude, they need to ship me to Pakistan and let me negotiate this freaking deal. I will come back with such a good deal. I will have that straight opened. I will freaking have those nukes gone. Like, they need to let me negotiate this shit. Like, I genuinely think I can negotiate. Applied Digital, it was up, now it's down. I guess the earnings call not going the best. That's down 6%. Bro's acting like he's not on the VIP. Okay, first of all, I am not gay enough to be invited to this Grindr after party. I know you guys think I am, but I'm not. I wonder if Grindr's just sponsoring it, or like, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, if you go, like, you're going there for a reason. I mean, dude, the amount of representatives we have in Congress that have been rumored to be gay for so long. I mean, there's some obvious names we can throw out there, but there's many that have been rumored to be gay. So it wouldn't be that crazy if they were there. 2022 version of You Could Pass. Dude, those market opens from 22, they are painful to watch. We were averaging about 200-300 people at the time. I remember it was about like 180 to 280 people every time. I mean, I can go through the analytics and see how many people were there, but that's what I remember at the time. And those 200 people stuck with me as I ring the bell in the zestiest of ways. And, you know, I guess that's how it goes down. Okay, Amit got a backdoor pass is crazy. Amit got a backdoor pass is freaking great. He's invited to the after party. Amit be like, what can Brown do for you? I did used to ring. Every time we got 100 new people, I would ring the bell. You were there. I remember you. Ray obviously was there. Shem Pasta has been there. There's a bunch of you guys that were there. Davis was there. RF Andy was there. Yeah, there's a bunch of guys in the early. Michelle was there. I think all of us were obviously much younger, and all of us were much more uneducated about the markets. It's been a learning journey for all of us to try to understand this stuff. And I didn't start streaming in 2021 and 2020 when the markets were open. I started in 2022, November 2021. So really the end of 2021, early 2022. So I got hit with not my first bear market because we had that in 2020, but 2020 then reversed so quickly because we printed so much money that it was kind of like the real first, oh shit, I got punched in the face after I actually put real money into the markets. And I mean, it was the same for a lot of people that thought the artificial prices that COVID gave us that were obviously inflated because of stimulus were reasonable to buy. And, we all had to deal with that beating. So every day that I was going live, it was just trying to navigate the beating that we were taking. And it didn't end for a year. So it's just one of those things where all you had was time, hopefully, for this to end. Yeah, Ray was full port Tesla back then. That's when Tesla was trading like sub $100. Sam says, "Wow, I met the OG crew, feeling so blessed. Y'all were awesome." Yeah, a lot of the OGs here were at LA. Andy was there, Ray was there, Michelle was there, Sam was there, Steph was there, June was there. I came the day you shaved the beard. I did shave my beard on stream. I couldn't even figure out how to like make I had to call Chris. I was like, Chris, how do you turn on what do you call that thing? Like a shaver, I guess. I didn't even know how to turn it on. I was like using the wrong side of it for the first 20 minutes. I was like, oh, this is quicker if you do it the right way. It's been a journey. It has been a journey. Adam, yep, he was there as well. Adam, I think you were one of the first people to hop on the StreamYard on Finance Junkies and tell us about your restaurant as well. Was there with my real name and you butchered it. Okay, well, I am sorry for that, but nothing has changed in the context of butchering names. Dude, the guest we had today on Basis Points, I think I kind of butchered her last name, although I said it confidently, so she didn't get too mad about it. But I kind of feel like, and not butcher, maybe I don't know. I feel like I said it not as strongly as I could have said it. She was a great guest, though. I think you guys will like this episode. It'll probably be out tomorrow. But I could tell as soon as I said it, I was like, oh, I probably just said her name wrong. But she was nice enough to not get upset about it. Melania Trump. It is not Melania Trump. No offense, but your name is a mess. What do you think about AI trading in U.S. markets? I think the AI trading bots are going to be more rampant, but I think there's going to need to be a lot of models that actually understand how to react to price action. And I also think if you're using models to trade, there has to be an edge to the model because a lot of other people are using models as well. So AI is going to be a big part of the markets, but the ability for a model to effectively buy and sell and have an agent trade for you, like there's going to need to be a real edge to that agent if it, actually can generate profits. It was not Mariana. Mariana doesn't like being on camera. She told us that a couple years ago when we met her. She's never done an interview or anything like that. But the guest we had today, I think, is really good. And you guys have seen her on CNBC all the time. So I think you guys will like it. But maybe one day we can get Mariana. You brought your dentist on Basis Points. Oh my gosh. You can't say your own last. No, I can say my last name. It's Kukreja. It's just some people say Kukaracha, Kukreja. I mean, dude, people get my first name wrong. They say Amit. Like, I don't care. I really don't give a shit if you say my name. I have zero oh, I'm so sad people said my name wrong. Like, I don't get when people get upset when you say their name wrong. It's like, it's a name. Get over yourself. It's not that serious. Like, If you're that obsessed with your name being said correctly, it's like you got a hell of an ego. So I've never really cared. But other people do. I have not talked to Gabe in a while. I haven't talked to Gabe since 2022. I don't know what happened to him, to be honest. I mean, look, there's some people that you might make content with early on in your journey that they're not necessarily content creators and they don't really care about creating content. They're just there, you know, just because it's a little thing to do for them that's fun. But, you know, Chris wasn't a content creator. Steve wasn't a content creator. But these guys have, you know, turned more into content creators, even if that's not like their full-time. Carlos and Vitaly, they're, you know, still awesome. Keep up with them. I met Carlos at the LA meetup, but he doesn't create content, right? He did for a couple of years, but he's busy. He has other shit to do. So there's some people that just don't end up, you know, fully embracing that story. Oh, I would love to have Morgan on the stream. It was not Morgan, but maybe we'll get Morgan one day. That's the cool thing about being in New York, dude. Once you're in New York, you have a lot of access to just more people. It was not Liz Young, although she would be awesome as well. But she doesn't do a lot of these independent podcasts, dude. SoFi is so strict with their compliance. So that's the issue. We got to get through SoFi's compliance to get her to be on. It's not Kathy Wood. Although their team has reached out. They want us to come to Florida, though. And I'm down to do it. It's just, you know, we got to set up the date. Because they have a full studio in Florida. So that's where they want to do it. But that might happen more in the summer. Versus at the moment. It's not Christina Partsinevelos. Although she's awesome as well. I met her at the GTC. She's super cool. Met Seema Modi as well at AIPCon. But yeah, she was super smart today, dude. She could just talk about anything. So it was really cool because like it's really cool when you can talk markets with someone who you know knows about markets. Like when you use certain terms where they just immediately understand it because like they're in that world. And again, there's just not a lot of people that we all have access to that can do that. It's not Sarah Eisman from CNBC, although I would love to have her on one day. It's not Gunjan. A lot of you have been saying Gunjan. It's not her. Although that would be fun to have her on as well. Dude, it's not Pam Bondi. Like, she is not getting on a podcast. Because the number one freaking question would be, so, why is the Dow not 50K? Like, there's no way she would be on the freaking pod, dude. There's no freaking way. Although, it would be fun. Like, I would love to interview her, but yeah, that's not happening. Did you have your date? The date was rain checked, unfortunately. But it was indeed rain checked. This is why I told you guys the day I talked about, I was like, I don't know if it's actually going to happen, but yeah. You know what's so ironic about this? I came back from California. It was supposed to happen 2 weeks ago, but obviously I was in California for the meetup. And then it was supposed to happen last Saturday, and now she is in San Francisco, which is very annoying because, I mean, we basically missed each other by 2 weeks, but I don't even know if it's going to happen in the future, dude. We'll see if it happens, but time will tell. It is not Sydney Sweeney. Sounds like a plot to a Hallmark movie. Dude, I just like, I don't know, dude. This girl, I don't know. I think she's super cool from the conversation we've had. I don't know if we're actually going to meaningfully develop any chemistry in person. And the timing is just, that's another reason why the scheduling, dude, like this was supposed to happen 3 weeks ago, but I went to California 2 times in 2 weeks. Oh, Tom was on CNBC today? We didn't get to hear Tom. We got to pull up Tom. And then, you know, once I'm back in Jersey, she's out in California. Like, I literally can't even make this up. You guys can ask Davis. Is Davis still in the chat? There he is. Unfortunately, she's an SF. Seema Modi. It's not Seema Modi. FDX still looks solid. I'm not streaming a date live, dude. That's never happening. I knew the date wasn't happening as soon as I saw your unboxing video. Yeah, I posted that on Saturday, right? That was when it was supposed to happen, Saturday. I think that's also part of see, I think, so I've been going through all the VC pitches that I've been getting. And there's like 100 of them. I've gone through 20. Most of these ideas, in my opinion, suck and they're not that good. There's a couple that I reached back out to the founder and wanted to set up a meeting. Someone needs to reinvent the dating apps. I really think there is a massive opportunity in being able to create connections between people that, like, the reason she responded to me in the first place is because, it's kind of logical. She's 28, she's single. I'm 28, I'm single. Like, you slide into someone's DMs, they respond, you have a conversation, you agree to have a date. Unfortunately, the actual timing of it hasn't played out yet. But like, there's a reason you do that back and forth, right? And then there's probably some level of intrigue that she has based on what she saw on my profile. There's obviously a level of intrigue that I had on her profile. And if there was no intrigue, there would be no conversation back and forth, right? And there would be no even potential to plan it. But that's all happening on Instagram. And it's like, that's such a shitty place for that to be happening. But on Hinge and Tinder, it's this like dystopian swipe right, swipe left to go through your, like, I feel like there has to be a better way for people to reinvent it. And I'm telling you guys, and some people who are my age, I mean, you got to agree with me on this. There is a crisis in dating for people that are in their late 20s, early 30s. Like, people are not getting married as much. People are not having kids as much. The average marriage age is now like 38. It used to be 31 10 years ago. Grindr is not that place, even if you think it's the place for me. But I think there is a commercial opportunity for people to meet each other and date. And I think that, there's got to be $1 billion company there. I don't think Hinge, and I told you guys, I talked to one of the Hinge engineers a while ago, and he was like, dude, it's literally dystopian. Like, if you're not a certain type of attractive that is deemed by the Hinge engineers, that's why he got fired. The dude got fired because he tried to recommend to the engineers, hey, like, we need to change how the algo works because you're giving like all of these guys zero chance to get any mentions or swipes. And they were like, no, they're not conventionally attractive. And it's like, okay, well, that's probably not the best way for a population to recreate and meet each other. And it's literally happening on these apps. People are not going up to the bar anymore and seeing each other. Like, that's just not happening as easily. I mean, I'm sure like it's not completely dead where people meet each other in person, but the vast majority, like, whenever I ask my friends who are in a relationship, like, how'd you meet? They're like, Hinge, Tinder, I message her on Instagram. It's like the same story every freaking time. And so, and then you put on the loneliness epidemic with men, which is a massive crisis as well. And that's, there's a lot of ways to dice that out. I don't think a dating app is going to fix that. But, you've got men that don't feel secure in themselves, don't feel confident. You've got men that aren't making as much money. And then these women want the guy to make $500,000 a year. It's like, like, you also have that broader problem. And the issue with that, whether or not you care about the mental health of men, is that if we don't have families, and men don't try to take control and actually try to start a life with another person, and there's more depression, there's more chances of suicide. I mean, this stuff is well documented in the literature. A lot of the school shooters that we've seen over the past 10 years have had a lot of mental health issues. Like, you have some dark paths when you are single, alone, and depressed. And you've got the sociological issue around the expectations of men. And then you've got the dating apps that are so skewed. And then you've got the broader issue of, do people go out and even meet each other anymore? So I do think there's an opportunity to fix this shit. I don't know what the answer is. I'm definitely not going to try to create that app or product, but I would love to invest in it if someone has an idea on how to fix dating. Yeah, RF Andy, he met his wife through Tinder as well. I remember at the meetup, I was like, how'd you guys meet? He said Tinder. which is crazy, bro. And I think they've been married for 5 years or something. I have this chat. I don't need a boyfriend. See, that's bad, bro. That is not good. We cannot just say we have the chat, so we don't need a significant other. But like, you guys get my point, right? Like, it's not like, and then it's annoying, right? Because, you know, this girl's like, oh, I'm in California, let's reschedule. And then if I try to reschedule and it doesn't work out, and it's like, all this is happening through Instagram. This is just like, it feels so dumb. It's like, it feels like there should be a better way to do this. And then I also think this is a quantity over quality game when it comes to dating. I think you need to have a lot of shots at the goal. And in order to have those shots, you either have to, you know, legit go out every night and try to find new people. And there's so many like girls on Instagram that like talk about this dating stuff. And when they show up in my feed, they're like, we want guys to come up to us. You know, they're like, number one piece of advice to guys, like, we want you to come up to us and talk to us because so many guys are afraid. But then you have the guys that say, well, when we try to do it, you guys make us feel like shit and make us feel like losers. And like, obviously there's a balance there in the middle, but like, the point is no one's right or wrong. It's just a complicated story for this generation. And it is kind of scary because if it doesn't resolve itself, like, you know, our parents got married and had like 4 or 5 kids. Like, if we don't have a lot of kids, Elon's arguing about population collapse. That's like a legit thing. You need people to have jobs and spend money and like be productive. And if you don't have people, then, you know, it's not really going to easily work. Do a single versus not single poll. Okay, I would bet the majority of you are not single because I would say you're older and married. I'm going to go 70-30 not single on this poll. It was 65-35 on the bull trap. Are you single? I'm going 60-40 to not single. But I think there's got to be a commercial way to solve this. Is this just guy or girls? No, this is anybody. It doesn't matter if you're a guy or girl. It's just, are you single? You can start a new YouTube. Dude, I don't want to be in the dating content world. It's just obviously, you know, as I'll be 29 in a couple months, and, you know, the whole point of moving out for me was to get more into that social life and start dating and do more of that stuff. And I would say it's you know, there's been a variety of experiences since I moved out. I moved out back in August, so it's been about 8 months, and I've had a variety of different experiences. But the number one thing I've noticed is like, it is difficult to find that other person. That is the hard part. Now, some of the people that I've talked to say you just got to go out a lot more, and you know, it's hard in freaking New York, January, February to go out when it's freezing. So, you know, as the summer comes by, you know, there's more opportunities and stuff. But I wonder if that's the real solution of just putting yourself in a, I mean, obviously logically, if you put yourself in a scenario where you have a better chance to meet someone, you know, the opportunities for that spontaneity are more likely. But that also means that, you know, you have to go out there and do it. Where is the Facebook It's Complicated option? Yeah, that's also fair. Oh, wow. I'm wrong. It was 55. No, I'm right. It's 55-45. I said it would be 60-40. I'm almost right. 60-40. All right, 60-40. That's what we got. Davis is not good enough for me. That's correct. That is correct. What about Tanner? Tanner has been with his girlfriend for like 7 years. He's been with her for a while. Like, sometimes when you find the right one, you find the right one and you lock it down. And, you know, some people end up having that happen early in life. I think the majority of people, you know, it's not as easily. I saw a TikTok of a girl in New York tripping at crosswalks trying to meet the love of her life. See, this is the shit. This is what, dude, whether or not you agree with exactly what's happening, there is a problem in dating in this country, or I would say even globally. There's a problem with people meeting each other in their late 20s, early 30s and doing shit like tripping over a crosswalk to fall into a guy's arms or some shit. Like, really? I mean, that's crazy. That's absolutely freaking crazy. Tanner just needed to find someone who accepted his bathroom habit. Yes, exactly. And he did. No, his girlfriend is awesome. I've met her. She's great. I don't think she's ever been on his stream, but she's awesome. Like, we had dinner together in Toronto, and like, she, like, you can tell, like, she is Tanner's vibe. Tanner has a certain vibe about him. She matches that. Like, it's pretty obvious why they're together. But it's not that easy to find that person so quickly. This chat is better than my man. Oh my gosh. Will you say yes if Carp asks you to marry him? Okay, no. Carp has his own world of relationships. I mean, he's very private about that stuff, but the public stuff in the book. What was that quote? He was like, I'm geographically monogamous. That was the hardest quote of 2025. I am geographically monogamous, bro. Like, that legit was the hardest freaking quote of last year. What did Davis say? Why are you guys all laughing at Davis? What did his bitch ass say? I don't see his comment. I kind of don't want to see his comment, but what did he say? I don't see it. But it was probably something that made fun of me. But isn't that such a hard comment, geographically monogamous? That's another thing, bro. I think that monogamy is also not as easy for people to accept in our generation. Like 20 years ago, the idea was you meet a girl or a guy and you're with them, and then boom, you're here for. I think our generation is a lot more skeptical of the idea of being with one person forever. He said he's trying to retire the love of his life, but she won't respond. I mean, if Pounter keeps going down, he definitely is not going to retire the love of his life. You better hope Pounter reverses, Davis, so you have a chance to do that. But yeah, I think monogamy is also becoming in question now. I think a lot of people are wondering what's the value proposition to staying with one person forever, and that's also a scary thought, because yeah, I think we're kind of cooked as a species if everyone doesn't believe in having a nuclear family. And I don't know, dude. Even I've thought of it. I'm like, one girl for the rest of my life. Like, it's you got to be madly in love with her. You got to, it makes you wonder, like, dude, am I meant to be with one person forever? And I want to have a family. I want to have kids. And so I am down to do that. But definitely start thinking about it more and more, especially as you get older. Yeah, and that's also, you got to be faithful, and the whole faithful nature of dating has come into question. I do not mean man, as much as you guys want to think I say man. Dating is like Ceasefire. That's crazy. That is freaking crazy. Dating is like Ceasefire. Well, I guess to an extent it is. Anyway, the whole point, we got on this conversation because I do think there's a commercial opportunity for dating. And if someone's building something, let me know. I think more and more people will be interested in that. I'm getting married on April 17th. Wow, congrats, man. Congrats. If you are, can you put in the chat, if you are married, how long have you been married in the chat? Put in the chat, if you are married or you're in a serious relationship, how long have you been there? We talked about the markets for like 2 hours. So now we're just talking. So if you're expecting market stuff, I mean, maybe we'll talk here and there, but is there anything else to talk about, bro? We got a ceasefire. Like either it's going to be held up or not at this point. There's not much more to it. Either it's going to freaking work or not. And the markets believe it's going to work, which is why we're green. But hopefully we stay there. 25 years, 18 years, 30 years, 14 years, 15, 13. Shout out to Eddie and his wonderful wife. They were at the meetup 2 years, but together 8 years. See, that's the other thing. You want to get married to someone, you probably want to date them for at least a year, if not a couple years before you, and then you want to live with them for a year. You kind of need 2 to 3 years to get to know each other like really well before you marry them, which requires, more time. 6 years, 28 years, 10 years, 30 years, 22 years. The Office is definitely a good spot to find people. Yeah, shout out to Uzi. He met his girlfriend in work. I mean, work is another easy place where I don't have access to because I don't work at a corporate job, but that's another simple arena where you could at least have a chance to meet somebody. Just like college. Dude, it was easy to meet girls. It was easy to meet friends. It was easy to, because your friend knows that friend. And then I remember one of my friends set me up on a blind date with another friend, and it actually really worked out very well my senior year. Like, because you just know each other, right? Like, there's just so many people. And then corporate is not like college because it's not all about having fun, but at least, and HR and all that stuff. But there's at least a chance to meet somebody. But if you're not in either of those situations, then you have to kind of, figure it out yourself. I was married 20 years, happily divorced. What is the divorce rate? What is the divorce rate in the U.S.? Is this true? All right, what do you guys think is the divorce rate? Gemini, let me ask ChatGPT. I don't believe Gemini on this. I'm going to ask ChatGPT. That's much lower than I thought. I'm curious if that's actually accurate. Yeah, a lot of you guys are saying 50%. That's what I thought. But Gemini's saying it's 1.8%. ChatGPT, however, is saying 40 to 45% of first marriages are expected to end in divorce. Gemini said it was a record low of 1.4% married adults in 2023. I'm not sure. While the commonly cited 50% figure is outdated, the divorce rate has stabilized or fallen for most age groups, with about 2.4 divorces per 1,000 people. Okay, look, if that's accurate, it doesn't sound right because I feel like you hear a lot more about divorce than not. That's true. Can't divorce if you can't get married. That's also fair. That is the rate per year. ChatGPT says about 1 in 3 Americans who have been married have experienced divorce. Yeah, that seems a little bit more. But it does say it's the lowest level since the 70s and 80s. Let me ask Grok. What is the divorce rate for marriages in the United States? It's like they're giving multiple answers here to kind of explain it. Yeah, all 3 of the LLMs are saying it's been declining. So that's actually against what I thought. Yeah, 2.4 divorces per 1,000 people. And the refined rate is about 14.2 divorces per 1,000 married women. It's about 33%. That's what ChatGPT said. All right, so if you take that 33% number, divorce is expensive as well. That's also true. I actually know a friend who's going through a divorce right now, and it's a pretty close friend. And it's a pretty crappy reason for the divorce. It's not him; it's the wife. Well, he initiated it, but he had no choice because the wife was just, in his words, going crazy. But given I know the situation, I also would say probably going a bit crazy. But he's gonna have to give up a decent chunk of his assets as well, and it's not much you could do at that point. It's not Steve. Steve's wife is awesome, bro. Steve's wife is amazing. So Steve's pretty cool. She was actually I was on a Zoom with Steve the other night. We were talking about something, and his wife was in the background. She's just so happy that Steve's like really, doing media and content and all this stuff. She loves it because she knows it makes him really happy, as he's actually going for it. It's not Chris. You guys wouldn't know if it's like Chris or Steve or anything like that. I mean, it's not those guys. It's someone you guys don't. It's like more of a personal friend that you guys don't know. But the point is, when he told me the story, I was like, fuck, dude. Like, he called me 2 weeks ago, and I was like, damn. His wife did not cheat. It was much. I can't say the reason, dude. I hate to tease it. I cannot say that. I really cannot say the reason, but it wasn't cheating. It was something worse than that, or I should say more idiotic than cheating, I would say. But it is what it is. Me and Davis are divorced. That is also true. Divorce is always a huge failure and sad. Can't understand people that say congrats to them. Yeah, and it sucks too, right? Because at the end of the day, we're humans. And if you make a mistake, like, it's a pretty big mistake, but it is what it is. It's a mistake. You got to correct it rather than stay stuck in a horrible relationship. But it is what it is. Okay, Hollis, she did not do that. All right. I don't want to know what experiences you have been through. But that was not it. Okay, I think that's enough on dating. What else do we talk about? It's 6 o'clock. I think we spent enough time on this topic. Do we want to watch Tom Lee? We didn't even get to watch Tom. It's a green day. We got to watch Tom on a green day. Oh, that was Amber Heard. You're right. I forgot. That was Amber Heard. That I actually remember watching that documentary on Netflix. That was definitely a crazy situation. Okay, let's listen to Tom, and we'll get back to some other stuff. But let's see what Tom had to say.
Bring in Fund Strat's head of research, Tom Lee, also a CNBC contributor, and as you see here with us at Post 9. It's good to have you back.
Great to see you.
Now what for these markets?
I think the bottom's in, Scott, because last week was a period where the war was getting worse and oil was going up, but stocks weren't going down. So that's a good precondition. And today now we have the rate of change, that the war is de-escalating. So I think stocks are now in the process to go back to their all-time highs, and I think maybe get to that 7,300 that we were expecting this year.
Wow. So let's just remind and refresh people's memories a bit. You were looking for a strong start to the year, stocks falling into potentially a bear market.
Yes.
Most of that you pegged to a new Fed chair coming in and some of the issues that might revolve around monetary policy. Couldn't foresee the outbreak of this war and the conflict, et cetera. Does it matter what caused the bear market for how you project your outlook for the year? Or are you confident that we had this event, an existential event for the market, it reacted negatively, and now we're going to rebuild our way back?
Yeah, I think things have possibly changed, Scott, because this war pulled forward a lot of repositioning. You know, we know people have gone flat or raised cash, and they were ready to own defensive positioning. And we also had a rolling bear market last year in energy and financials, and this year in Mag 7 and software. So something like 70% of the S&P has already been through a rolling bear market. So I think the possibility is that the summer lull that could happen won't be as deep because we've already fallen 8%.
What's the makeup of the move back towards record highs, like you just said you thought we would do? What does the makeup of the market look like in that scenario?
I think the leadership has been revealed in the last 6 weeks because since the war started, the number one performing asset class has been crypto, Ethereum, and then energy stocks, Mag 7 software, financials. So to me, that's the group that's leading us up. You know, energy went up for obvious reasons.
Sure. Isn't it going to go down now for obvious reasons?
Yes. And then the negative correlation to oil was the highest in almost a decade for the Mag 7, Ethereum, and software. So I think that as oil flattens or cools or the curve flattens, those names are going to get a bid, and they've gotten already cheap. We know the Mag 7 is trading almost at a market multiple.
When you know that we sort of banked on the broadening trade, you know, there was a bent towards value, which it had outperformed growth. Is that mostly over now? Because even with oil elevated, we're still going to ask ourselves questions about a slowdown in the economy, right? Or no?
And there's still a shock rippling through the economy,
which we maybe haven't felt quite yet.
Correct. Yeah, I think there's an inflation shock still coming. I think that the broadening is taking place. The narrowing is, I think, more investors are going to buy U.S. because the U.S. has proven its resilience in this wartime period. Plus, the U.S. makes more money in a war. But the broadening is that more U.S. stocks rise.
Yeah, but if you're telling me the inflation shock is coming, isn't that going to negatively impact the broadening trade?
Yeah, I think it is out there. We just don't know amplitude because, it's like a wave. Like when it hits shore, is it going to be diminished and are people bracing for it? But there should be some inflation shock coming. It sounds like the Fed is already thinking about, still leaning towards cuts, which is good. We'll get some signal.
Well, right now they feel like they're leaning towards doing nothing for the foreseeable future. And if they believe what you just said and believe, then you must believe that they're going to remain on hold for potentially even longer.
Yeah, and it really depends on if consumers and corporates view this as temporary or a change in inflation. So the surveys will matter a lot, as will the incoming reports. But the Fed Fund futures show the market's shifting back towards cuts.
All right,
So did I hear him correctly? Did he say no correction? No, wasn't the initial call 20% correction in May? I think he said that back in December. I think now, obviously, he didn't expect a war, but the war gave us, call it a 10% correction, 8.6 at the max lows. So I don't get what he's saying about rate cuts. I mean, unless oil gets materially down from here, the rate cut story is still kind of slanted. There's a shot we get one, but the idea of 2 cuts this year, I don't know, dude. I don't think we get that. But he also says we're probably not going to see another correction at that level. I mean, yeah, I mean, and we correct. We have had a big correction for tech, and we've also had in individual stocks, Microsoft, Nvidia, they're down way more than 10%, or they were at least. So bullish? Dude, this is the least bullish green day we've had in a while. Genuinely, I feel like so many people don't believe in this, even though with all the negative headlines, the S&P stayed pretty freaking strong. Oil stayed down. And I think, which is kind of bullish in and of itself, if there's this, wall of worry where everyone is so scared about the ceasefire not being real or Israel attacking Lebanon and the negotiations not working out. There's something to be afraid about, but the market, is not acting like there is, which is, I guess, in some way encouraging. But I mean, even on Twitter, the amount of skepticism I've seen today on this rally, it's legit. I get why people are skeptical. I don't think people should be, wrong to question what's happening here. The thing is, even Tom's initial 20% decline call in December, I didn't agree with that because we were at 6,800 on the S&P. He said we would pump to 73, then fall 20%. I'm like, what's the catalyst for the pump? And then when we get there, what's the catalyst for the dump? There's always some type of catalyst. In this case, we had a very obvious catalyst for the dump, which was the war. But now what would be the new catalyst, assuming the war is taken care of? I mean, anything could pop up, but macro-wise, multiples are still compressed. Inflation should normalize. Labor market, I mean, it's bad, but it's not horrendous, right? Claims are still 200,000 a week, which is nothing in the context of a recession. By the way, some Meta 610 and 615 DTEs were up 40,000% today because of the release of the new model. And there were a few traders that took advantage of that. I'm not saying they had insider information, but 40,000% in a day. Someone put, what was it? They turned 4,000 into 40 million or something. No, 4,000 into 4 million was one of the option flows that we saw today. Not bad. $4,000 to 4 million. But It worked. Reuters, via an Israeli official, Washington will assist in any negotiation that Iran hand over its nuclear materials and halt uranium enrichment. Okay, that's obvious that they're going to be asking for that. The question is, will Iran agree to that? And if they don't, I think we have a different problem. New York Times, White House knew about Pakistan's ceasefire post on X before it was sent. Pakistan's prime minister posted a public plea on X for President Trump to extend the Tuesday evening deadline. The White House was directly involved in shaping the message. This is also not surprising, given the guy tweeted Pakistan PM draft at the top of the tweet before he had to edit it. And you can see the edit history on the post. So it does feel like the U.S. was involved in that. Which, again, goes to my point. Do we really think 2 hours before 8 p.m., the Pakistani prime minister figured out a way to bring boats? No way in hell, bro. They obviously knew about this probably on Sunday night. And they played it up for 2 days. And then they went through these shenanigans of, oh, the Pakistanis are going to get us together. Like, this was, it seems like this was inevitably going to happen. Because this stuff doesn't just happen in a couple of hours. Like, this stuff has to be calculated. And hopefully the negotiations are also more calculated as well. Yeah, it absolutely felt staged, dude. Really, the Pakistani prime minister makes a plea publicly on Twitter in a tweet where he doesn't even know how to get rid of the first subject line, which shows how much it was drafted. And somehow the U.S. agrees and Iran agrees to the Pakistani prime minister. Like, it just sounds so fake. Which is what feels like how it played out. It was Trump speaking through Pakistan. Yeah, I mean, it seems like it was the U.S. Yeah, both sides responded in a couple minutes, bro. That's why the sources were so accurate that there was going to be a ceasefire, because, I mean, there was obviously always going to be a ceasefire, at least over the past couple of days, and then they just had to put it out to make it happen. Republicans fear Iran will cost them the midterm, ceasefire or not, as per Politico. The 2-week temporary ceasefire has done little to quell GOP fears about the war in Iran costing party seats in November. Well, I guess the midterms will let us know what happens. Saudi Arabia... Saudi Arabia is removing one of the chip manufacturers. Ironically, the guy's name is Amit Mida. They removed him as CEO from the public investment fund of the company they were investing in, and their resources are being redirected towards data center development strategy over chip manufacturing. Okay, as long as they keep spending on data centers and AI, that is not a bad thing. Meet up in Saudi Arabia. Dude, Saudi Arabia low-key is modernizing. I mean, they've been a lot friendlier to tourists and Westerners and stuff. I wouldn't mind going to Saudi Arabia one day. It would be kind of cool. I would go to Saudi Arabia before I go to China, dude. I'm convinced that if I go to China, it's not going to be pretty for me. And it's such an irrational fear. But it's also like, dude, who knows what the CCP thinks of certain things you say. I don't know. But I would go to the Saudis. How long before you started becoming profitable? I've been at it day in and day out for 6 months and a break even. It's very demoralizing. Okay, so it depends on what you're doing. If you're trading or buying long. When you talk about profitable, I've never necessarily like when I started, I wasn't trading, right? So 2022 sucked, but post 2022, I guess you could say I became quote unquote profitable because you bought the dip. I mean, every retail investor became profitable by buying the dip and holding. And like that's it. Now, if you're trading, that's a whole different question. And I think, 6 months in and your break even, probably you should congratulate yourself because trading is not easy. and it takes years to get really good at it. But it also takes a lot of commitment, and you have to have your own, custom style to be able to do it. Some people day trade, some people swing trade, some people only trade options. But buying and holding, I think, for most people has worked. I leave for Shanghai Friday to celebrate 7 years with my wife. Yeah, look, I'm being paranoid about going to China. I just think they hate carp is not allowed in China. Palantir is obviously banned in China. And then I have thousands of videos of myself over the internet saying how much I love Palantir and how I've critiqued the CCP profusely over the past 4 years. So I'm probably not important enough for them to care. But just the idea that you could enter into a country where you're not from, and it's not like the CCP hasn't done it before. They potentially want to have a word with you. That's just scary as a concept to me. Even though it's probably a very irrational fear that I have. But the majority of people, are not going to have an issue going to China. Yeah, dude, you can't mention the Tiananmen Square. If you guys ever downloaded the Chinese models and ask them questions, you can't ask about Winnie the Pooh because freaking Xi gets compared to him, and that's a sign of disrespect. You can't talk about Taiwan. You can't talk about Tiananmen Square. You can't say Free Tibet. You can't say any of this shit into the Chinese LLMs. So and they're spending a lot. The Chinese government is spending a lot of money on AI infrastructure, dude, because they know how powerful. This is why, when Dario talks about China, when Karp talks about China, the one thing they're both right on is we have to keep spending because the Chinese are not holding back. If you control AI supremacy, the amount of control a CCP could have, they already have so much control, but if you accelerate that with something like AGI, that's probably not slowing down. It's not irrational. Things you have said are actually illegal there. That's also fair. That is also fair. Imagine going to North Korea. I want to go to South Korea and go to the DMZ, the demilitarized zone. Have you guys actually seen what the DMZ looks like? It's quite incredible. Let me show you this quick video. It's literally both sides staring at each other all day. And if anyone thinks of crossing the border, they'll get ready to fight.
On our cameras. But to get here, we had to go through 3 checkpoints. We passed some anti-tank explosives. And now we're about to go into these blue rooms and into the North Korean line. So the North Koreans and the South Koreans still meet in this room?
Yes, the last known visit was 2008.
Literally, these microphones on the table are what defines the line. So North Korea on this side, South Korea on that side. It seems so easy. It's just one step. But when you think about all of the militarization and what you go through and the barbed wire, it's certainly far from easy. This concrete slab is literally the border. We're shooting it from the northern side, 17 inches by 5 inches, concrete. That's it. That marks the border. It's been here since 1953. And now the way that they pass messages, it's pretty amazing. They don't use email. They don't actually even use a phone. There's a phone, but it rings and rings. The North Koreans don't answer it. They actually, by bullhorn, communicate to the North Koreans. When we were inside the building, we could walk onto the North Korean side of it. But if I were to do that outside the building, to actually step over that line here, what would happen to me?
What would happen is all these soldiers here would make an attempt to stop you, especially me. And once you get over there, we can no longer help you.
What would the North Koreans do?
Probably run down there and grab you.
For the South Korean soldiers, this is the most prestigious assignment there is. To serve here in the DMZ, they have to be at least 5 feet 9 inches tall, which is taller than average.
Their whole day is just staring at the border. Could you imagine that? Your whole day standing in that position, just staring at the other side? Because they're both so freaking paranoid that if they don't have that level of military personnel, then one side's going to invade the other. Like that is fascinating to me.
And every single one of them has a black belt in Taekwondo. So North Korean and South Korean soldiers stand here every single day and stare at each other. The South Korean soldiers are right behind me. And then you can see that concrete building. That's where North Korean tourists can come to visit the DMZ. And apparently a lot of Chinese actually come through the North Korean side as well. And then there's that soldier. He stands there every single day, but the South Koreans and the Americans don't know his name, so they just refer to him as Bob. So we're basically surrounded by North Korea now, right?
Yes.
That's the most American thing ever. We refer to him as Bob. Now, look, obviously, yes, I stare at my screen all day. I get it. But at least I'm staring at like information. Like I'm not just staring into nothingness, assuming that someone's going to invade. Like it is crazy that is the job of some of these soldiers. Like I've always just found that unbelievable to an extent.
Give you a little idea of that. All this tree line and around that road and back is all North Korea.
So it's all North Korea, and where we are is sort of one little safe spot, but this is all mined as well, right?
Yes, there's approximately, I'm assuming, 1,000 mines within this area alone.
Amidst the minefields is a bridge, and North Korea is on the other side. There's actually a cement wall to prevent defectors from coming over to the south. It's called the Bridge of No Return, and 62 years after the ceasefire, it's still a lonely place.
It's crazy, right? I mean, it is incredible to analyze how the North Koreans and South Koreans coexist with each other. Have you seen the documentaries of the people that have escaped? Yes, I've seen pretty much all of them. The most famous one, I definitely don't know how to say the guy's name, but this was in World War II. He was a fighter pilot, and he was basically plotting his escape for months. And they used to do these like routine drills where you would go up in the sky and come down and go up in the sky. And one day he went up in the sky and he made a left turn, and all the other North Korean fights started shooting at, and he somehow missed all the missiles, and he ended up landing on a U.S. military base in South Korea. And the beautiful thing about this is that the fighter jet that he used was a Russian fighter jet. And as a result, that was actually instrumental to helping the Americans learn, technology that the Russians were using. No, it's not Otto. Otto was 2016. Sorry, not World War II. This was 1950. This was if I'm not wrong, North Korea. This was the Korean War. Or was it in the 60s? What's the guy's freaking name? It was not Dennis Rodman. Well, see, this is why we have Gemini. Who was the North Korean who used a fighter jet to fly away to South Korea? No Kum Sok. Yes, this is 1953. So this was during the Korean War. No Kum Sok. MiG-15, correct. The MiG-15. So this thing, the U.S. had no idea how to actually navigate it. And it was actually pretty advanced technology back in the 50s. And he took one of these. The North Koreans got it from the Russians. And he landed it in a South Korean base. And immediately the South Koreans were ready to shoot at him. But he got out of it and he put his hands up in the air and he admitted defeat. The guy ended up living for a while. He ended up living till 2022, I think. Yeah, 2022. He was born, he was 90 years old. No Kum Sok is his name. It's just these crazy stories. Absolutely crazy stories. If anyone wants to see an interview with this guy, he did one a few years ago. That's him right there. I'll link into the chat. It's about 30 minutes, but it's kind of crazy. Why are you guys making fun of his name, bro? Goodness, we are all children. We're all freaking adult children. That's all we are. That's his name. That's his freaking name. It is a funny name. That's his name. Your brain retains so much info. Does learning things come easy to you? You know, I don't think learning comes easy to me, but I really do like absorbing information. Like I wasn't good in high school when it came to doing tests. Like I was really bad when it came to like there was too much pressure during the test, and I would, you know, I was never the best test taker. And the reason I got good grades was just because like getting good grades is not hard. Just do your freaking homework. You know, it's like people, I don't know, sometimes people get lazy and they just forget to hand in extra credit assignments and all this stuff. So that's why I had good grades. But when it comes to learning stuff, I think when I get interested in something, I really dive deep into it. Like in 2023, when I got interested in selling options, I took a good 2 months and I was just obsessed with selling options. And I learned about it. But it has to be something I'm interested in because like, you know, there's some like computer science. I took some computer science courses in college and I sucked at it. And I guess you could say I wasn't that interested, but also like naturally my brain didn't really vibe with coding. Like it just didn't come natural to me. There wasn't something creative or artistic or informative, even though some people feel that when they code. And now with vibe coding in them, it's almost like, okay, well, like maybe the most valuable thing I could have done in college was focus on being creative because that's where the opportunity is now in a world of AI versus the commoditized sport of coding when you can code anything you want. Maybe you're autistic, maybe that as well. I mean, look at this shit, bro. Has anyone ever just done this before? Like, look, this shit is just crazy. Code me a game of chess. Like, it is incredible when you actually look at it coding and you're like, dude, why would anyone look at this shit? Like, why would anyone need to actually learn how to I mean, I'm speaking in generalities, obviously. Software engineers are still going to be super important, but look at this. You're never going to be better than this. There's no way. There's no way. Like, no, you're not beating this. You've got to add more value other than just knowing how to code itself. I mean, this is crazy. So to me, it's like, you know, some of this stuff that's getting commoditized, there's got to be other stuff that the people know how to do instead. But yeah, that's how I kind of learned. That was ChatGPT. When's the next options video? You know, Jason and I have been meaning to do 301 for like a year. He has a kid on the way though, so I got to find him on a. Options 101 and 201 covers a lot though. I mean, 301 gets like into iron condors and butter. It's like really advanced shit, which inevitably we'll do. But 101 and 201, I think, give a really good, at least understanding for it. Yeah, 101 helped me. Again, like after you watch 101, the amount of times I've asked ChatGPT to like help me think of an option situation, it's very powerful. I mean, this is stuff you would pay business consultants hundreds of dollars an hour to help you understand. And you have it for free. And it does it in seconds, you know? So it is a whole new world that we're entering into, which is why, you know, I'm also so freaking bullish in video. Do we have anything else? We talked about dilution for air chest systems. We talked about a lot of stuff today. This is the most not bullish day in the market, I think, that we've seen in a while. Are all white-collar junior positions screwed? I don't think all of them, but I do think you have to prove how valuable you are to a company if you're a white-collar worker. You know, in order to continue providing something to the company. Like, you've got to be irreplaceable. What option situations do you ask? Basic stuff like, hey, my covered call's underwater. What do I do with this? Or, hey, I'm thinking of doing this call debit spread, but I want to hedge it with these puts. How would you like? It's so like it's a supercomputer that can within milliseconds analyze and predict every single possible outcome of a situation you're describing, and then connect to the web and research all the historical data on the internet that has been written about your topic. And then it can inference and think for itself and then give you an answer. Like, this is why when people say AI is overhyped, I'm like, what are we talking about? Perplexity just said 500 million in revenue. Perplexity came back from the dead. Everyone thought they were done. It's like, nope, they're doing almost $500 million in revenue. You can't say that's a dead company. Claude's doing 30 billion. Like, it's the guest we had today, we asked her about AI and she was just like, this is so real. And when AI agents become even more personal in people's lives, it's going to become even more real. So, yeah, it feels like it's not slowing down anytime soon. Oh, this is an interesting stat. The stock portfolios of American billionaires are underperforming. Well, it's not that interesting. Everyone's underperforming this year, right? It doesn't matter if you're a billionaire or if you're worth $1,000. Like it's whether it's 1,000, 100,000, a million, a billion. Like if the market's down, everyone's probably suffering from it. So it's not too crazy, but I wonder if that means, more of the ultra rich are gonna plow money into the markets if they think this war is over. That's also true. They're conservative. They don't need to build any wealth. That's the thing. The lady we talked to today, she's a registered investment advisor, so she was able to really explain some of the conversations she's having with people that are, preserving wealth versus trying to generate wealth. And these are fascinating conversations, especially when the markets are as volatile as they are. NATO Secretary General pointed out to Trump that large majority of European nations have been helpful, very frank, open discussion with Trump. He did meet him today in the White House. That was not streamed. Episode should be out tomorrow. If not tomorrow, then Friday. Okay, so the NATO guy is trying to calm Trump down about NATO. I don't think Trump's NATO take is that politically popular, dude. I really don't. I mean, Spain probably cutting off their airspace was not something that he's happy with. But if the war itself isn't popular, you're not going to get that many people being like, oh, well, if the NATO countries don't want to support, then that's a bad thing. Now, granted, you do have, if Trump was legit, they were about to get a nuke. And all these NATO countries, they say they care about defense, and when it's time to actually do something, they don't want to do anything. Then there's a different question. But if you're not winning the public opinion on the war, you might not win the scapegoat of blaming NATO. Oh, he's on CNN right now? Okay, let's pull him up. And so that's going to be the broader question for if this NATO stuff ends up becoming as big of a deal. All right, let's pull this up here.
The nuclear and the ballistic missile capacity of the Iranians.
Yeah, but Europeans wanted to do it through diplomatic means.
Yeah, I know, but we run the risk that this would lead into the North Korea moment, where you talk so long that at a certain moment it's beyond the point where you can still get this done, because then they would get their hands on the nuclear capacity, and that is basically a big risk for Europe. It is existential for Israel. It is existential for the Middle East. So the whole world is safer by this president degrading those capabilities.
But there are a lot of
this is by many in Europe acknowledged, and they understand that continuing talking to get this done would have brought us potentially past that moment where we can still deal with it.
So you talked about the statement of NATO allied countries about the Strait of Hormuz, about trying to figure out a way forward. Here is the White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, when asked about the joint statement from the NATO governments about the Strait of Hormuz. Here's what she had to say.
I have a direct quote from the President of the United States on NATO, and I will share it with all of you. They were tested and they failed.
Do you agree that NATO countries, some of them were tested and failed?
Some of them, yes, but a large majority of European countries, and that's what we discussed today, have done what they promised before in a case like this, because they know that when it comes to NATO, it's there to protect the United States, because the US needs to secure Atlantic and to secure Arctic and to secure Europe to stay safe here, the US mainland. But it is also there to make sure that, of course, Europe is safe, and to be this platform of power projection for the United States. So what the US did with Iran, they could do because so many European countries lived up to those commitments. Not all of them. And I totally understand his disappointment about that. But it is therefore a nuanced picture. It is not just saying it is black or white.
How many NATO allied countries, a lot or a little, thought that the war that President Trump and Israel waged against Iran was illegal, was an illegal war? Do you think that's a prevalent view?
No.
No,
because NATO has always taken the position that degrading these capabilities of nuclear and the ballistic missiles is crucial, and that Iran can never get his hands on those two capabilities. There is widespread support for that point of view.
I've also heard the argument that NATO countries weren't involved because NATO is a defensive organization, and this was an offensive war, a war by choice. Obviously, a nuclear Iran, an Iran with nuclear weapons is not acceptable to NATO, but that the president didn't have to wage this war at that moment. Is that part of this calculus at all?
Yeah, but you cannot defend yourself without being lethal. And look at NATO. The Germans now spending in 2029 153 billion, twice as much as in 2021. They will spend the same as the French and the Brits combined. The whole of NATO is now on 2%. Last year, NATO spent 20% more, Canada and the European NATO allies, thanks to President Trump's pushing for this, Trump 45, but also Trump 47 at the Hague summit. And then we agreed collectively to get to this 5% of defense spending. I mean, without him, we would never have gotten there.
So the Strait of Hormuz, obviously, that's been a real crisis for so many in Europe. I read that in Italy, they even have school by Zoom because of the gas crisis in Italy right now, almost as if it's COVID era, and other European countries have been hit hard. Are the Strait of Hormuz open, as far as you can tell?
Well, of course, we have to see over the next couple of days what happens.
But as of now, I mean,
well, I don't have the intelligence now at my fingertips to give you that answer. But I think over the next couple of days we will know, and it is absolutely true that for the Europeans, but also for the Asians. Look at Japan, look at Korea, look at Australia, and other countries like Thailand and the Philippines. They get huge volumes in terms of their oil and gas, etc., through the Strait of Hormuz. So for them, it's crucial. It's crucial for Europeans.
Yeah.
And this is why Keir Starmer, the British Prime Minister, brought together this coalition, making sure that answering the questions what, where, and when it comes to the Strait of Hormuz.
Okay, so that seems like they had a good conversation. I mean, he doesn't seem like Trump was that upset. Maybe Trump is still going to try to say something about NATO to prove a point, but seems like the conversation was relatively reasonable, and maybe NATO's involvement gets some critique, but it's not necessarily going to be something that Trump is obsessed with focusing on. I guess we'll find out. Stock draft, this is the update we have on it. Matt is up 28%. This will end on June 16th, so we're about 3 months away. I am up 15.9%. Steve is up 1.3%. Tanner's up 2.96%. Chris is negative 0.02%. So relative to all five of us, obviously Matt has done the best. I've done the second best. If I didn't have the stupid green owl, we probably would be closer to 20%. Matt's biggest loser is Dutch Bros, which isn't even that bad. Tanner, unfortunately, he had Trade Desk, which got hit pretty bad. But then he also had ServiceNow. So he had a software name and an advertising name that it got hit. I obviously had a sort of like AI narrative, commoditized name, language learning. Seems like it'll be dead via AI. So that's why that one got hit. Steve's biggest loser is HIMS and MicroStrategy. So the Bitcoin and HIMS thesis didn't play out. And then Chris, he got hit on ELF. He got hit on Axon. That one also kind of came out of nowhere, Axon, but it had been on a wild run. And then he got hit on Oracle and Novo. So those were the 4 that kind of got him. So we got 3 months left for that stock draft to officially conclude. Yeah, it's just bragging rights. You don't really get anything. We should do this again when it ends. Like in June, we should. The stock draft was fun for those that were there. If you just type in a mid stock draft on YouTube, it was actually really fun because literally it was a draft. So if I take this, you can't take this. And the SPY is up, I think. Well, I'll check exactly. Matt and I are beating the SPY. The rest of them, I believe, are not. So SPY from June 16th. June 16th was 602. We're at 675. It's a 12% move. So I'm at 16. So I'm beating it by 4%. Matt's at 28. So Matt's beating it by 16%. And then Steve, Tanner, Chris are not beating it. Yeah, when Chris got pissed at how slow the draft was going. Well, Tanner was taking a lot of time to make a pick, which I don't blame him for. And then Chris was just like, dude, it's not even real money. Can you just pick? But it was fun. It was very fun. I was taking forever on the last pick, which is why I ended up saying Duolingo at the end. I should have picked SGov, dude. That should have been an option, just having cash. Like, it's not crazy to have a little bit of cash. Then again, the point of it is to pick stocks, but when Tanner didn't take SoFi, I should have sold. That was kind of wild because I don't get. Look, I took Palantir at 140 and I took Hood at 79. And there's something about a little bit of loyalty, right? It's like, look, maybe at those, they ended up doing really well in 5 months, and then 8 months later they ended up kind of being flat. But I mean, if you're gonna give me those 2 picks on the board, like I'm gonna take it. I'm loyal. And he went 3 picks without SoFi, and then Matt was like, screw it. And Tanner was like, oh, I didn't think anyone would take it. It's like, well, someone took it. Tesla was also doing well for me. I think I got Tesla at 330. Now it's right back to these levels, but it was doing well. I took like 10 minutes to pick Duolingo. It was either Nike or Duolingo, and I just picked Duolingo. Do you think Duolingo's a buy in real life? No. I mean, I wrote my deep dive on them a while ago. The problem is, dude, there is a moat in the context of the data they have. It's so obvious that the bigger players can integrate it into their platform. I don't think it's a death pill for, like, I don't think it kills the company, but the multiple, you can't pay a crazy multiple on that, just like you can't do that for Salesforce or ServiceNow. So, no, it'd be hard to buy, dude. And why would you buy Duolingo versus NVIDIA? It's like risk to reward. NVIDIA is just such a safer bet that's still trading at a very reasonable multiple, or Meta. That's the thing. A lot of these individual stocks, they get compared to the Max 7, which are, hit 20% this year. The Max 7 win. Yeah, Matt did offer to trade SoFi for NVIDIA. I mean, it's a good thing Tanner didn't do that, but that would have been true loyalty. Would have been true freaking loyalty. What changes to the format would you make? There's probably a bunch of different things we can do. Yeah, probably percentage weighting in the portfolio. The way we made our picks and the order and sequence of it. There's probably a bunch of different things. I tried to trade Steve Apple for Hims, and he said no. Thank goodness, bro. Because then I would have had 2 names down more than 50%, and that would have wrecked it. I'm like, all right, bro, you can keep Hims. Yeah, a timer probably would be a good idea. That would have made sense. Oh boy. All right, are we done? Are we done? There will be a daily recap today. We will make sure we have it. Also, I mean, we actually have something to recap because yesterday, the news was breaking so quick, but now we at least have some updates on this ceasefire. So we'll have that later. Nvidia selling off after hours, is it? Yeah, it is a little bit. So is SPY. This is so up and down every single. There is as long as oil stays down. If oil spikes up, then this move is completely fake, and no one would believe it. But it's got to stay down. Trump, Carp, and Vlad are live. That's funny. When's your next pedicure? I got a pedicure 2 weeks ago, so I'll be good for a while. Steve has not announced what he was going to announce yet. I think he's doing it in about 3 days, maybe even this weekend. So he should be announcing it soon. Can you continue to market open? One day we will do it. One freaking day we will do this. It'll have to be market open, market close, stay the whole night to market open, and then market closing. I'm going to be freaking exhausted, but it'll be so epic, bro. Iran's Revolutionary Guards Navy announced alternative shipping routes in Strait of Hormuz to avoid possible sea mines. Okay, that's bullish, I think. Not sure if Intel was part of the draft. Probably should have been. Yeah, like the iCarly 24-hour web show. Dude, iCarly was an epic show. It's kind of crazy because, I mean, this is basically an iCarly show in real life. It's a web show every day. The fact that they even called it a web show back, like it's a stream now, right? It's like a stream. But they called it a web show back in 2012. Would you like Palantir in the 130s? If we see low 130s on Palantir, I will probably nibble because that's where it bounced off last time. So yes, if we get below 130, I would definitely nibble. I still don't understand why we had the sell-off to the proportion we had it today. I don't see any insider selling after hours. Yeah, zero insider selling. So I don't know. Let's see if we get a bounce off 140, but low 130s. It would definitely poke at it a bit. Do a 24-hour stream between you, Steve, Chris, and Jason. Yeah, I would have to get all of them to be ready to tune in to the stream. Do you like Rock Lab at these levels? Only if you think SpaceX can create a pump. I don't think fundamentally the valuation is that reasonable here, but high beta growth, war's ending, they already diluted, SpaceX catalyst, like makes sense in my head for this to get a rally at least back up to 90. But it's speculative here. I don't see Rocket Lab going like to 50 or anything. Like I think that moment happened last Monday, and I agree with Sam. I do think there is a better shot that we put in the bottom. So even if it's range bound, maybe it's not. Buying a falling knife. It doesn't feel like a lot of the stocks are buying falling knife territory unless we see oil spike back up, which is important. I don't know if Burry caused Palantir, man. Like, I don't know how much he can control the markets. One tweet about Anthropic's taking Palantir's lunch, which is not even well respected, is not something that I think, and maybe it affected it. I just don't know if it takes it down by 20 billion. But I guess we'll see. Do you own BMNR? Yes. I'm not adding to it, but I still own it. Why don't you talk about it anymore? There's not much to talk about. I mean, I applaud Tanner when he makes a BMNR. The reason I don't make BMNR videos is because there's not that much to analyze, but Tanner does a really good job when he breaks it down. I mean, there's just nothing to talk about. Same thing with MicroStrategy. Like, you need crypto to go up. There's literally nothing to discuss unless we get into a cycle where crypto and the staking thing, like none of that stuff matters if Ethereum is stuck at this price. Same thing with Bitcoin. And I think we're stuck in a crypto winter as of now. Usually these things last a year. By the end of October, I would imagine historically, if the timeline's set up, then this crypto winter starts to not be as aggressive. And then you start to have a lot more momentum and a lot more excitement. Now, the stablecoin and tokenization stuff, all of that has only gotten better and better and better, but none of that matters towards the price action. I think that was also something that people thought did matter a year ago, when in reality, it was a liquidity cycle that mattered. I mean, if a glitch took down crypto by 20 billion in one day, then the forces that control crypto are much larger than the qualitative thesis you might have on an Ethereum or a counter-cyclical hedge around the concept of the debasement of currency, right? Like all of those arguments kind of fall short when crypto gets liquidated that much in a day. And it makes you realize, all right, there's a bigger force that's controlling it, which basically means it's stuck. It's not good for Coinbase either. But obviously, if you believe we get out of this, that's when you get a buy. Microsoft flat after hours. What about a 24-hour stream between our community of creators for a charity fundraiser? I don't know how many people will, I'll tell you right now, Tanner's not staying live with me for 24 hours. It could be the best charity in the world. Tanner's getting his sleep scores. Steve is not staying live for 24 hours. I just don't think Chris has a job, right? I just don't think I'm going to get enough. Maybe Matt. Matt also has a job. I don't know if I would get that many people to agree to do that. Officials in the Middle East believe there's a significant chance that the war will flare up again, possibly with even greater intensity, as per the Wall Street Journal. Well, that would suck. Tanner has no job. Yeah, but he has a sleep score that he deeply cares about. I wish I cared as much about my sleep score as Tanner did. Dude, the problem is, even last night, I had a couple meetings last night, late at night, 10 to 11:30. I couldn't sleep after those meetings. I didn't sleep until 2 a.m. because I just started walking around. I just started pacing in my apartment. It's just, it's really hard to get my mind to just calm down. And I don't know, I was just up. That's why I kind of like to end my day around 8:39 and start winding down. But if I'm actively engaged and talking about something for an hour and a half, then it's really tough to then just, okay, I'm going right back to sleep. It has to kind of be a process. You need boundaries? Well, yeah, but see, this is the thing, right? There's some meetings you can't freaking someone said, let's get on a phone call. It's you got it, even if it's at 10:30, you need to have leverage to be no, I'm busy. And with some people, you don't have leverage. You have to no, they have the leverage and you got to freaking pick up the call. But yes, boundaries should be in place. And Asana, that's also true. And Asana. I do not play video games. No, you guys know what I've been playing? Yo, you guys, I'm going to take you guys back to 2016 with this game. I've been playing the shit out of this just as a way to distract myself. You guys ready for this? I already started playing. 2048, baby. You guys remember this game? This freaking game? Where you got to get the thing to make 2048? Oh my goodness, this is addicting as hell. This and chess I play online. If you haven't played this game, download it tonight. You will be addicted to it. It actually is. You guys haven't played this thing? This is one of the most fun games. You just have to connect all the boxes to get to 2048. And then it keeps going. Yeah, the right corner is the way to beat the game. You have to keep your things at the right corner. Angry Birds, dude, Angry Birds was like 15 years ago. I have not played Angry Birds in so long. Flappy Bird was the shit. You guys know the story about Flappy Bird, right? People started like hurting themselves because they were losing in the game, and it was making $50,000 a day in 2014 because the game went viral, and the creator shut the game down because he was so upset that people actually like were doing bad things to themselves because they weren't freaking beating the game, and he shut it down. But it was also a super viral game. All right, I think that's it for me. I think that's it. We're done. It was the most bearish, bullish day I think we've had in a while. I have not seen this much bearishness on a 2.5% move, but I get the skepticism around it. You got all these headlines saying the ceasefire is not going to last. See if it continues. I'll be back tomorrow morning on the market open. It'll be Thursday. Hopefully we hold on to this momentum. Tomorrow will be the real test. Today was good that we held up even with all the pain of the headlines, but if we can hold it a second. This is like, this is 3 days in a row. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of green. It's the first time we've had 3 days in a row in I think almost 2 months. And so hopefully it continues going into tomorrow. All right, that's it. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. I'll be back tomorrow. We'll have a daily recap out later. And we'll keep going from there. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. I'll see you guys tomorrow on the market open. Bye, everyone.